Well, thank God it's Friday. Oh man, you're huge, Steve. We're both
Yeah,
gay.
they tell me that. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've heard that a few times too.
I walked right in. No, actually, I've
Yeah, you
never heard
did.
that before. No, I can honestly say no. That has never,
Really?
it's never
Well,
happened.
don't feel
No,
bad. Yeah, you know what? Hey, there's nothing
ever.
wrong. There's nothing wrong with average. Trust me. It's perfectly statistically perfect. That is, women like that, from what I understand.
Somehow, I don't feel any better with you telling me there's nothing wrong with that, Steve.
Yeah,
That
well,
doesn't
I've
make
done
me feel
okay.
better.
I've
Okay,
done
we're
well.
moving on now.
We
What an
have a
awkward
big
start.
group with us, but it's not us.
What an what an awkward start. Oh, we have company. Hello,
We
everybody.
do have a
Welcome
guest.
back. Yes, well, and the people in the chat. Hello, everyone, and let's say hello to the dick that Steve was referencing there. That is none other than the man, the myth, and the legend, King Crocoduck. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
We got the royal
Good
family
man.
here. We got the king, the queen, and the pope. We've got like the whole royal thing going on here. It's like the Medici
Wait,
family.
who's the queen? I can't. Who's with
Well,
us?
Kyle, clearly.
I would
Oh,
be
I
the
see.
queen.
Yeah, he'd be the
You see what he
queen.
did there? He's making
Yes.
yeah. He's got a
A,
gay friend now,
a
so he can make
homophobic
all the
joke.
gay
Yes,
jokes.
exactly.
He
Exactly.
can make all the gay jokes. That's a hate crime, Steve.
Shame on you,
Illegal in
Steve.
12 states.
That's a hate crime. Tonight we are going to. So we tested the call-in system the other night. It seemed to work out pretty well, and we're going to do a show centered around that tonight to see if we can run it through and not have any issues. And if so, we will make this a weekly occurrence. Usually, probably on Fridays, I think would be a good day to do this. We'll be joined by a guest, and you can call in now. As much as we appreciate the conveyance of how much you love us, because we love you too. Don't get twisted. We love you too. We're looking for people who either disagree with us or who have a question about something that maybe we've said in the past, or they want us to clarify something. As much as we would like to hear from the people that have nice things to say, because you guys are awesome, we do want to get to the ones that either have a disagreement, just so that we can have sort of a conversation we can actually kind of get into, and there'll be something that comes out of it. But you can tell us how much you love us on Twitter or email, and we can respond back and forth that way, and also we can answer any questions that you may have. The Bitch Made shirt that everybody's been asking for is live in the Teespring shop. You can go to nonsexshow.com/merch, MERCH, and get the shirt there. I think that's all that I have. Tomorrow we will be doing a private hangout for our patrons. So if you are a patron at 4 p.m. Eastern, you can either check the Patreon page where there will be a post, or you can go to Discord in the open forum under the Patreon channel, and the link will be posted there, usually about 5 minutes till. And come in and join us. It's open to you guys. We usually go for about 2 hours or more. Last time we went a little more than that because we were talking about universal basic income, which we are going to do a show on. It was a fascinating talk, so you can come join us if you have something to talk about. Bring it, and we will definitely discuss it. The number to call here is on the screen up top. It's 1-818-921-3838, and you can get through. Dave will be screening your calls, so Dave will not patch through anybody that either has a disagreement or a question that one of us can answer. So we are trying to focus in on that tonight. One interesting thing, and one thing that I see that I'm going to need to sort of fix, and maybe you guys out there can help me out with this. The only issue here is that we're only able to do one call at a time with the plugin. So when somebody calls that number, if they're on the call, we can bring other people into that call, like if you call, but we have no way of knowing either what they're going to say or who they are. So there's no way to kind of keep a bank. You know what I mean? So if you guys have any suggestions on how to we could fix that, then please let me know, because we are trying to make it better and streamlined so that we can get more people and not have to wait for that. Somebody else to come through.
Is this Dave?
Oh, who is that angelic
Hi.
voice?
I got a question for the king.
Okay,
well,
let's
you're a
hear
little
it.
early.
Sure.
I
First
guess
of all,
we're diving right into this.
can you turn your feed
Hi.
off? We're hearing ourselves in the
I got a
background.
question for the king.
So if you have the show up and running, I need you to turn that off.
What?
You're listening to
have
the
the
live
show
feed. You got to
playing?
turn off
Pause
the
the
live feed.
show
Can
in
you
the
hear me?
background.
Yeah, we
All right, much
can hear
better.
you. We need you to turn the show off.
Oh, they're not.
Dave, can you fix that, please? Mute her until she can turn off the feed. Okay, there's an important point. When you come on, please make sure that you have the feed either muted or closed out, because it will loop back through and you will hear that noise right there. So Dave, just let me know when she's got that muted, and we will get her question for the king. Okay, all right. Who are we speaking with?
This is Lisa Fratturi. Is this Kyle?
Hey, Lisa. This is Kyle. I know. Look, it's a lot to take in. I know.
That's not the
You don't have
process.
to be speechless.
Kyle.
I'm
Okay.
really human. What's your question, Lisa?
I read recently that a research team from one of the top universities in the world has pretty much jingled some mathematical equations and found out that our universe is actually like a spin-off of another universe. Can the king answer that, please?
I'd be careful with. I would be cautious if you read this like on Yahoo News or something. Every other week they post a story of breaking news: scientists have discovered that our universe is a hologram. Breaking news: scientists have disproven Einstein, and this sort of thing. I haven't heard of what you're talking about. I guess I would have to read the original source, but I tend to be skeptical, especially if it comes from like a mainstream source or something like that.
Is she talking about bubble universes, like from level 3 multiverse, or level 2? Actually, it'd be level 2 multiverse. That's what I'm wondering if she's asking.
Is that what you're talking about, Lisa? Can you link the article? Send the article to us somehow.
Maybe.
What was do you remember the title of the article?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to waste your time. I just wanted to know what.
Oh no, it's fine.
Out of that.
Yeah, it's not a waste of time. No, it's just if this is a thing, if it is a thing, it hasn't come my way. I haven't heard of it yet, but I do hear a lot.
Thank you very much. You have a great day.
Sure.
Lisa,
If you find that article, let us know.
Lisa,
send it to us.
Lisa, before you hang up, I would like to say that I very much enjoy your channel. I watch it quite often.
Oh, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah, so maybe we can get a link to that article, and as we go along, I can sort of read it and get a summary of that. Okay, so lines open again. If you have a question for King Crocoduck, the guy's a genius. As many of you know, seen him debate. He's actually him and Aaron, I would say, are the two people that just completely decimated Kent Hovind. And King
Crocoduck did a pretty good job, I think.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Yeah, Bill
Ludlow
is amazing.
That is very true. The thing that I take away from that is the verb that you came up with, Hovinding.
Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah, you had 3 actual discussions with them, but I think we differ in. I think the second one was my favorite one, and the one I enjoyed. I think we got more information out of Hovind, displaying what inept understanding he really has. But you liked, which one did you like the most? Wasn't the second one?
My personal favorite was the first one.
The first one. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
But a
So
lot of people like the second and third better. I don't know.
yeah, I was a fan of the second.
I was
While
fan
we
of second,
wait,
too.
while we wait for somebody to call in, Steve, do you want to take us through what happened with the Mormon Church this week?
Yeah, interesting thing that came out on NPR News. They titled it "A Major Shift: LDS Church Rolls Back Controversial Policies Toward LGBT Members." They don't have the Q in there, by the way. I didn't purposely leave it out. But in 2015, the Mormon Church had some policies that if you were a homosexual couple, the children could not be baptized or have anything to really do with the some of the events of the church, right? I guess they're penalizing the children because of having gay parents, and so they couldn't be blessed or be baptized. Well, what happened was 1,000 people decided to get together and kind of protest to the church in real time, in real life, and go down there and say, look, if we don't do something about this, we're leaving the church. They just, like a swarm, and I think it forced the church to reevaluate their policies because their numbers are dwindling. I mean, there's no question. If you look at the actual membership, the LDS church is going down substantially every year. It's gone down for the last, I think, 20, 30 years. It's down to about 1% growth rate. And it used to be as high as, I think it was like 15%, 17%. It was way higher than it is now. But and that was in the 80s. But so they reversed that policy. So now that the children or parents that are identified as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, they can get baptized and they can get blessed, which doesn't sound like a huge thing, but it really is for the LDS church to make that kind of concession.
Do you know why it's a huge thing for me? And then I want to get King Crocoduck's take on this. For me, it's a huge deal because it shows that when the threat of the flock leaving, or when the threat of outside forces gets too much, then God's views, or sort of the way that things are supposed to go, is negotiable. Up until that point, this is the way that it is, and this is the way that God said it was going to be, and there is no changing it. But the moment that those coffers start getting threatened, it's amazing what kind of changes we can set forth in the church. Absolutely amazing.
God becomes a lot more progressive and a lot more amenable to changes and negotiations of His holy eternal rules.
Every time,
once His flock starts to leave, this stuff is more negotiable. Let's talk about it. Let's sit down at the table and discuss.
Yeah.
I have
it's such a
I have Macabre Malefica on the line with a question for King Crocoduck.
Okay. Excellent.
Oh, hey there, guys. How's it going?
Excellent.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. It's a Saturday afternoon here. Just kicking back. King Crocoduck, I have a question about dark matter. Specifically, how do we know that dark matter is actually a thing, as opposed to perhaps a misunderstanding of gravity? Like, do you think that dark matter, or can we substantiate that dark matter is a phenomenon, or do you think that it's equally likely that some sort of change in the current paradigm will reveal it to be just our misunderstanding of gravity on a macro scale?
Oh, good question. Well, we can see the effects of dark matter. We can see the gravitational lensing to the extent that corresponds to the amount of mass that's missing in a particular region. So from that, the presence of dark matter halos around galaxies is kind of inferred. But in terms of what exact, if it requires a reorganization of our understanding of how gravity works, I can't see the future. It would be a huge change, akin to the development of relativity. But without a crystal ball and just looking at it from the current paradigm, I would say that dark matter is just some as yet not known substance. I'm not really up to date on the research. I know that Atlas, they're a part of the Large Hadron Collider. They're adjacent to the CMS, the compact muon solenoid. And they've been looking for dark particles for a while, but to my knowledge, they haven't been able to detect any. So right now, basically the short answer is we have no idea. It's an open question right now.
Have you heard that they recently have eliminated the possibility of primordial black holes being the cause of dark matter? But Hawking had suggested at one time, but as of effect 3 days ago, they released a paper that basically just said that's not going to be the case.
No, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
It's
From what
really
I understand, was that?
It's really new, like literally like last day or a couple days or so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right now, from what I understand, from the people I talk to who are in the field, right now the kind of dominant view is that dark matter is WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles. But this isn't really my particular subfield, so I only know like bits and pieces of what's going on over there.
Okay.
But there's something there, right? I mean, we
question
definitely know
to what
something
we're
there.
saying.
Okay.
Can I just clarify
What's that?
something? Sorry, the connection's
Yes, of
awful.
course.
I'm sorry if I'm cutting anyone off. In Crocoduck, when you said that you can see dark matter halos and such, are you saying that we can see a region of space in which we can see a gravitational phenomenon occurring and therefore can
Yes.
infer that in this particular place there is dark matter, or is it
Yes.
something else that I'm... Oh, okay. That's really cool. Hey, thanks for that. I'm given the bad connection. I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for answering the King Crocoduck. And one last thing, I actually broke my Hangout cherry on your channel like in 5 or 6 years ago. My first ever Google Hangout. Not sure if you ever remember. It was my avatar.
Well, I mean, I
was
don't remember the exact hangout, but I mean,
bump.
you've been around a long time.
Well, I'm happy you came back for seconds. I'm happy to have left an impression.
Well,
He's been around.
it was great fun to talk to you
Macabre's
again.
been around
You
for.
guys have a good one. Thanks very much.
Have a good one.
Macabre's been around since like the early forms of YouTube. He back in the early, remember the Nadia days, Casey? He's been around a very, very long time. In our hangouts.
I saw several people that were trying to call in a few minutes ago. Like I said, it's a one-line thing as of right now until I get that fixed. So it is open again. You can those of you that were calling, there's about 6 people that were calling a second ago. You can call back in. And Frustrated Atheist, I saw that you were going to send an article over Twitter. I will once you do that, I will definitely ask him about that since you can't call in. And I believe Dave has the next caller on the line. Who do we have, Dave? Excellent.
May I ask who's calling? It's corrupt syntax, and who do you need to speak with?
Thank you for calling NonSequitur.
How can I direct your call?
Well, you're not. Wait,
Yeah.
wait. Hold on a sec, guys. Keep going.
Yeah, go ahead and figure that out, Dave. And I'm going to read Frustrated Atheist's article. So he wants to know your opinion on this article, Casey, and it is that a new paper, a mirror image of our universe existed before the Big Bang. It says the Big Bang didn't just result in our familiar universe according to a mind-bending new theory. It also generated a second anti-universe that extended backwards in time like a mirror image of our own. Are you familiar
I'll
with
have
this?
to read the paper. I'll have to read the paper. This sounds super hyped, as the media tends to do with this kind of topic. But I'll have a look at it and
I read
offer
the
my
pop
opinion.
science version of it. I haven't read the paper, but the pop science version is basically what they're arguing. Casey, is that when you have one universe going one way with the times arrow entropy going this way, it creates another universe simultaneously with the times arrow going the other way. So it have decreasing entropy rather than increasing entropy.
Interesting.
Okay, cool. I mean,
Pop science, man.
Our caller should be
Sure.
connected now.
Okay. Who are we speaking with?
Hi guys, this is Corrupts Attacks.
How's it going?
Good. This question is directed to Steve. I drive a truck, so I have a lot of time to binge watch. I recently saw a hangout on Red's Rhetoric where Sean was referencing that he liked to troll you or give you crap about how 0.099 repeating was equal to 1.
Well, no, 0.099 repeating is equal to 0.1.
Oh no.
You mean 0.99
0.1.
repeating?
Right. I haven't had a chance to look up what that was referencing, but can you give me a synopsis on really what that was about?
Yeah, I'll give you a brief one, and then KC can take it. 0.99 repeating is just another way of expressing the number 1. It's called an infinite decimal expansion. If you take a sequence like 9 and then 0.9, then 0.99, then 0.99, then 0.999, and that's a sequence. And if you just did that and for an infinite amount of times, then the limit at which that value converges upon is called the limit of the sequence. That's the number of the sequence. So 0.9, 0.99, 0.999, the limit of that is 1. Therefore, 0.999 repeating has to equal 1. They're the same value. It's just expressed differently, kind of like 0.5 and 1/2. They look differently. One's in fractional notation, one's in decimal. They're the same value. They exist at the same exact point on the real number line. That's all.
Okay, that makes sense.
You want to add on
my
that?
dad went to college for probability statistics, so yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
And in case you want to add up on that, you're the math guy.
no, you got it right. I have nothing to add to
Yay,
points
okay,
99999 except for 0.00001.
I'm glad we avoided a big debacle there.
It's
For a
math.
second,
That's what I like about math.
For a second, I thought it was gonna go badly. Thank you for
Math is
calling, man.
math.
Well,
Is he gone? Well, thank you for.
that was it, guys. Appreciate the
Okay.
show.
Sure.
Watch you all the time on the road, so keep doing what you're doing.
We will try. Thank you for calling.
All right, bye, guys.
For those of you in the chat asking how to call, the number is in the top right hand corner. It is 1-818-921-3838. Again, that's one. I feel like a telephone. There's telephone pastors. Remember Robert Tilton used to do those.
Oh yeah.
I think that though I was going to say, in going back to the Mormon thing, they have a bigger issue, I think, and that is until they're able to settle this issue with the magic underwear. This is their biggest problem. Like this is their the issue.
I don't know why that's even an issue. They don't call. There's nothing magical about it. They're just undergarments. There's nothing. They don't think there's any. They don't think it's imbued with any magical ability or anything.
They think it's sacred. They hold it higher than just regular underwear. Like you don't just go.
Same with the cross, but that's people don't think. Not everybody thinks a cross, does anything as far as like having empowerment to it. It's just a symbol, right? The garments they wear are symbols of their covenant.
They're using a ceremony,
but I don't think it has any. No, I didn't go through the ceremony. No,
but they are using a ceremony, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the underwear is used in a ceremony. This is my point.
Yeah,
they're putting a special meaning to this underwear. This is their biggest issue.
I don't think anybody really cares that much about that.
We have our next caller online.
Excellent. Who do we have with us? Who's speaking?
And your name, please. Come on down.
Candleman.
Canderman. Okay. Canderman. What's on your mind, Canderman?
Yeah, I just watched a YouTube video about Bell's theorem and how it shows that one of these two assumptions in science is false, that information can't move faster than the speed of light, or that scientific realism is false. One of those two is wrong, and I'm wondering if that is actually having an implication about what answers to scientific questions scientists are seeing available to them.
Locality and realism, a big elephants in the room with quantum mechanics. Well, I will say this. It doesn't really matter what one's interpretation of quantum theory is. As you know, the math is the same regardless of whether you're doing pilot wave theory or whether you're thinking about Copenhagen theory or many worlds or whatever. When it comes to the actual statistics that are involved in the actual calculations and the experiments, as yet, there's no difference between any of the interpretations. There might be in the future experiments that show that one of these interpretations is more advantageous than another, and this interpretation could have non-local realism. This interpretation could eschew realism altogether. But for the time being, based on what we know so far, it doesn't matter. The math comes out the same, and the experiments produce the same results, regardless of what your interpretation is.
I don't accept local realism either, but it's not scientific realism, by the way. It's local realism. I don't accept local realism, but from what I understand with pilot wave theory, it will come up with the same exact things as you would have from any other multi-world interpretation or Copenhagen, but it requires a lot more assumptions and uses a Feynman's integral path formula, right? Which could be a lot more wieldy to work with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it does the same thing, it's just a matter of what model you want to use that makes the same predictions. One's just more complicated than the other. But I don't accept local realism.
Yeah, local realism has been dead in the water for a while. Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure,
Thank you.
Canderman. Good question so far tonight.
Yeah, that was like really awesome, actually.
I'm nervous that I won't be. I'm nervous that I won't be able to answer very many of these in a satisfying manner. These questions are very big and don't have easy answers or even any answers at the moment. All we sort of have at the moment are approaches to these questions.
Sure.
You just have to distill it down for us lay people, dude. That's it. I mean, just filter it through that massive head of yours and just get us the bare bones. Yeah, translate for. If I can translate for Kyle, you can translate for me. All right. So dumb it down for me, then I'll dumb it down for Kyle. He'll be like the second generation of information. I'm kidding.
I don't know if that was
If you say so, Steve.
A backhand comment, but I will be getting you back for that later on in the show.
Sure, you will.
Okay, so lines open again. I saw a couple people that called once again. If you are trying to get through, we have still to figure out some kinks with the call-in system. Right now, there's only one person able to be on at one time, so we're trying to work through that. So just bear with us, and we'll get to that. But we are answering any of your questions that you have for Casey. This is a good opportunity for you guys if you have anything that you'd like to that you may not necessarily agree with or you want clarifying. Gifted in terms of his knowledge, his breadth of knowledge in science. You can ask Steve questions based on pointless hypothesis and just guessing about what would happen in different dimensions if you so choose. That's what Steve's here for. And then I'm just here to just smile and say and filler. That's it.
Look pretty.
Nothing smart.
Well, let's ask Casey. Does Casey have anything that he's disagreed with us on, or does he has a gripe to vent? I know he occasionally will watch, very very infrequently at all. He probably doesn't remember how hell we are half the time, even though I pretty much contact him all the time. Casey, what you doing? What you doing? You have anything you want to bitch about?
He can speak to
I know you bitched about something on Twitter.
We were enthralled in a couple weeks ago.
Or we can go that direction too. I'm going to let him kind of do it either way because he was bitching on Twitter just earlier today, and I kind of felt bad for him.
Okay, we have a caller with a king for King. I can't talk. We have a caller with a question for King Crocoduck.
Okay, right, we'll get to that after the question. Who are we speaking with, caller?
This is Godless Galaxy.
Godless Galaxy.
Hello.
Hi. So I've heard about how quantum mechanics kind of shows that I've heard that the Big Bang Theory and the singularity and how that's I don't know entirely. Like I've heard that quantum mechanics disproves that, or like I don't know how quantum mechanics plays in with the Big Bang Theory, which is why I kind of called in.
Well, I don't see how quantum mechanics has disproven the Big Bang Theory. I guess I would need more context for the argument behind that. But to the extent that the quantum mechanics is involved with the Big Bang, you're looking at this point at high energy physics, specifically at particle physics. There's a fantastic book called, I think it's called The First 6 Minutes or The First 3 Minutes, written by Steven Weinberg, that talks about basically the particle physics interactions that were taking place within the first moments of the universe, and how it resulted in the uncoupling of the fundamental forces and the production of primordial matter. It's just a really good read. So I would recommend. I would recommend that. Again, I think it's called The First 3 Minutes. I know Steven Weinberg is the author. Yeah, maybe you'll find that interesting.
Guys, what makes you think that quantum does that? By the way, I mean, where did you pick that up? I mean, at a certain time, these models don't really work too well. But what is it about the singularity that you just don't think that quantum mechanics likes?
And I just heard that like the singularity. I don't know. I don't entirely like physics. I like biology, but like physics is also interesting. And I was looking at Big Bang Theory, and I was hearing some things about quantum mechanics and singularity not working out, because we don't know like 0.0, like we know like to like 0.10 to like the negative 48 second or something. I don't know.
That's
so like we don't know exactly all the way, and so we can't be sure if there was exactly a singularity.
Well, we do know that the universe was small enough to let me put it another way: the energy density of the universe, the amount of energy that was occupying a particular region of space, caused it to qualify as effectively a gravitational singularity. But I guess where maybe the confusion lies is where gravity is interacting with quantum mechanics. The reason why we can't go past this 10 to the minus 43, first 10 to the minus 43 seconds, is because we don't have a comprehensive understanding of how gravity works at the quantum scale. If we did have that, then we would have that understanding, but we don't have that yet. So maybe that's where you're getting the impression that quantum mechanics disproves the Big Bang Theory, because of this current what's the term I'm looking for? Incompatibility between quantum mechanics and gravitation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thanks for the answer.
Are you going into that
I'll
field?
Look up that book.
Are you going into that field, Godless Galaxy?
Maybe. I don't know entirely about the math, but probably I was thinking of more like science.
Sure.
Silence.
Sure. Good deal. Thanks for calling. I appreciate the question.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so now let's get back to Steve throwing out there that what's on King Crocoduck's mind, or if he would like to talk what we were involved in a couple of weeks ago. KC, what thoughts do you have on anything Steve said?
Very few. There was one YouTuber. I'm not going to name him because I promised that I wouldn't. But he and I had a problem because he accused me of some shit that I didn't do, and he blocked me, for no reason, basically, before I could defend myself. And it later came out that the reason why he'd blocked me was because he disagreed with me on something, and then he admitted as much. But his initial justification for blocking me was that I was it was a slander against my character, basically. So that was sort of my entry into whatever controversy happened.
Sure. The broader, aside from the individuals that it involved, the broader question was, which was a good question and a good conversation to have. Is there a line at which people shouldn't be platformed? Is there a line at which you should say your ideas are such that I'm not even going to engage or consider engaging with or debating or having anything to do with? What are your thoughts on that issue, just as a broader issue, a broader topic?
Well, my thoughts are, if you bill yourself as a platform for the exchange of information and ideas, then you do have an obligation to treat, the stupid, ridiculous, and even evil ideas, if for no other reason than to engage in the exercise of appraising ideas.
Sure.
Of course, you can, if it's your platform, you can choose, okay, I'll dedicate this much time to this thing, that much time to that thing. But if you're going to put a blanket ban and say outright, no, I'm never going to touch this subject, I think that's a little bit hypocritical. If one is going to, at least if one is billing oneself as a platform for the discussion of ideas.
Agreed. I think that's and to me, but by the way, guys, the line's open, so if you want to call in, I think Dave, do you have somebody, or is the line open still?
It's still open.
Okay, so you can call 1-818-921-3838 and get your question answered on anything that you'd like to talk about. But I think that the reason that so many sort of extremist positions exist today is due large in part to this very reason. They're not engaging in each other anymore. They're not, looking to have a conversation or a discussion or a debate on things they disagree about. What they do is they just run to their corners and, lobby insults and pejoratives and just at each other. The discussion part's lost. And I think when you do that, you push people further to those extreme positions. There's no sort of meeting to have a dialogue about the points in which we differ. And to me, I think that does greater damage than actually having the conversation.
Yeah. And the worst thing is that I can't stand the fact when people think for some reason you have somebody on your channel that you're necessarily promoting their ideas or even agreeing with their ideas. I don't know how in the world anybody on YouTube can think that's how any of that works. We have people on all the time that we do not agree with, and we will confront them on it. Now, we can't plan for every contingency, but we definitely, between Colin and I think we handle things quite effectively. We've been around the block. This is not our first rodeo when we have people on that is controversial. And so we can handle the situations. And so by giving somebody a platform, it's not that you're allowing them to go on and bloviate. It's not that you're allowing them to go on and preach hatred or bigotry and not being challenged by any such imagination. It's just quite the opposite. They're coming on expressing a different viewpoint, but they're getting an awful lot of backlash for that viewpoint. They're getting pushback for that viewpoint. And I think that overall has a far more diminishing effect on their message than ignoring them where they can kind of fester in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases. Not all, but in most cases.
I have a call.
And let's hear it.
Oh, you go ahead.
Who are we speaking with?
Underman.
Who?
Hey.
Underman?
Underman. Whatever happened to, like, John?
I was having a conversation on a YouTube debate channel earlier where we were talking about Aristotle's potentiality versus actuality distinction. And I don't know who this would be better suited to, but I'm wondering if in a causally deterministic universe where there are no, where there's no randomness, like let's say it's not our universe, this is a hypothetical one, would it still make sense to call, to say that things have potential when in reality they're always going to become the thing that they eventually do?
Well, you see, that's a very easy answer. It all starts with KC answering this question.
Oh, this sounds something like something more in Steve's corner, to be honest.
Violent Probably
This is
Steve.
Thomism
I'm not
is what
hearing
it is.
anything back.
You can't hear us? Dave, can you hear us?
Thunderman, can you hear us?
Hello?
Thunderman.
It worked for everybody else, Underman.
Thunderman, maybe you should just go off the stream and Steve can answer.
No,
You
wait,
can listen on.
He should be there now.
Hi, Underman,
Underman.
can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is kind of a Thomistic type thing about potentiality and actuality, but you can kind of avoid those terms when you're talking about deterministic things. We have a deterministic universe, and that only means that if you rewound the tape, things would manifest the same way as they would if they weren't. However, there's something called compatibility, which allows for not free will, but choices to be made. Right? We can have influence on the universe. So the universe is not completely hard deterministic. It's not what's called fatalism. What fatalism means that the universe has to end up in one specific way. There's no other way it could possibly not end up the way it is going to end up. And that's not the case. We do have influence on the universe. So it's not a fatalistic type system, and it's not even a hard deterministic type system. It'd be what's called a soft deterministic, because we have the ability to choose. So your question is basically things that have actuality may manifest into, or has potentiality, may manifest into actuality, but it's not some metaphysical necessity that has to be the case. There's certain instances where nothing can exist theoretically, and when you have nothing, you have no actuality, you have no potentiality, you have no causation, you have no inability to produce something, and you have no inability to produce not to produce something. It's in one of those weird states where who knows what can happen, because we have no idea what nothing would even be. But you can't say that something cannot come from nothing without some kind of logical proof, because there's just as much chance for something to come from nothing as there is for not something to come from nothing, because there's no potentiality and there's no actuality. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, thanks for correcting me. It is a
I have
quantum.
no idea what
not
the hell I
Aristotle.
just
It's
said,
just
but
a
I'm glad it
nuance.
made sense to you. I was in total Thomas speak. Now it actually makes sense.
So my question was about a hypothetical universe where there is hard determinism, where there's no randomness, there's no variability. Would it still make sense to say that there is a potentiality?
Well, I don't know what a hard deterministic universe would be without humans in it. I mean, the way a deterministic universe would work with us in it is something different than what's called libertarian free will. And the way it would work is this: if I rewound the tape, and I went from this time to some other time, all things being equal, the determinist would say that I would make the same exact decision as I did back then. What's called ceteris paribus, all things being equal. That's deterministic. But the libertarian free will would say, no. I have just as much chance to do something else as I did the thing that I decided upon. But I don't believe in libertarian free will. I think if we round the tape, we would make the same choices given the exact same conditions. Now, I'm going to throw this back to KC because he's the quantum guy. There is always quantum variations, and we can't predict any of that, which adds to uncertainty. So, what do you think, KC? If we rewound the tape, would we make the same exact decisions, all things being equal, or is there some kind of quantumness that's going to possibly change our brain states? Because again, we don't have libertarian free will. We always have some kind of external influence.
Well,
Would we make the same decision?
You don't even need to look at it from the quantum level. You can look at it from the statistical mechanics level. There exists. How do I put it? I just did a video on that involved statistical ensembles. I guess the simple answer is there's no like spooky quantum magic that grants us free will of the sort that some I guess is being suggested. I'm not really sure if I'm actually following the conversation, to be honest. This talk of potentiality.
Well, I don't think you even have to worry about the potentiality and actual. I'm just saying there are quantum fluctuations will change things because we have no ability to predict them. But if you go backwards in time, the libertarian free will person says that a person who just chooses A the first time might choose B the second time. But the determinist says no, they're always going to choose A every single time, being the exact same conditions. But throwing quantum in there kind of throws a wrench in there, because if quantum can change our brain states, those wouldn't be the same conditions, right?
Okay,
so
I don't think quantum. I don't think quantum effects have a non-negligible influence, or at least not in the sense that's being suggested here. I don't believe that they have a non-negligible influence on our on our actions and decision making. I think that my research has actually been in the biophysics of the human brain, and at no point have I ever used quantum mechanics to describe how signals, electrochemical signals, flow through the brain. It's there are people who like to look at the microtubules and like to say, oh, there's some quantum effects here, but I mean, I don't think there's really anything to it, to be honest.
Yeah, or orchestrated objective reductionism, right? Yeah, that was Penrose's theory. Orchestrated objective reductionism was using microtubules in the brain to produce consciousness from quantum fluctuations. Although that's starting to make a comeback a little bit.
This is nonsense. Consciousness is the result of metastability in the brain, and this is a classical process, not a quantum one.
So you don't have any stock in ARC-OR?
In what?
Orchestrated objective reductionism by Penrose.
No.
He posited that.
Yeah,
I kind of do actually, because it's kind of, they're finding out these microtubules that he predicted back in the 80s, 70s and 80s. I think before his first paper on that, he predicted them, and they were finding out that there is something related. Now, does it actually cause an emergent consciousness? Who the hell knows? I think like you, it's more mechanical, but yeah.
Do you think?
Well,
that,
I mean, when you can reduce any physical system though down to the quantum level if you wanted to go that far. But I don't think that demonstrates that whatever emerges from that system is the result of this kind of spooky quantum business that's being suggested by this view.
Steve, let me ask this, and I have a question for KC, since we're going down the consciousness route, and I think you know where I'm going to go with the question that I'm going to ask KC. But before we do that, you said libertarian free will. Do people who adhere to libertarian free will believe that taxation is theft?
Is that a question for me?
No, that's for Steve.
Different type of libertarianism.
Yeah. Right now, here's my question for you, KC. What do you think, or have you heard of the stoned ape theory?
Stoned ape theory?
Yeah.
No, but I'm intrigued.
It's the theory that our early ancestors, before consciousness was such that it is now, stumbled upon psychedelics in the form of mushrooms, and
oh, for fuck's sake! No. This just
I'm interested in. Oh nope.
This just comes from the corners of the internet that romanticize psychedelics and drugs as giving these kind of special insights. It's bullshit. It's just mysticism.
Damn
it! I really wanted that to be true. I really like that one. I think that's a very fun.
Well, I'm sure somebody did probably get some, some psilocybin somewhere down the line, but it didn't create the entire emergence of consciousness in the human race.
Ayahuasca,
yeah. I want to try that one day, but I heard it makes you violently ill first.
Yeah, well,
Jacqueline Glenn tried it, and she got sicker than a dog on ayahuasca.
Joe Rogan has done it several times, and of course Graham Hancock, and they both talk about visiting some lady, like I don't know. I don't know if I buy it. It's hard to tell because it's their experience. So you can't really prove them wrong. But it just, to me, sounds. I would have a bad trip. That's why I don't do it. I have a really bad trip. But while we wait on somebody else to call in, I have two articles that I wanted to bring up for Steve and Casey. Katie and I talked about these last night on the Smoking Nun, but I thought these were very, very intriguing articles. Dave, let's start with the pastor, the evangelical. Yeah, that's it. I cut people. Ex-megachurch pastor threatens a South Carolina newspaper during a sermon. Voices support for a pastor who bought his wife a $200,000 Lamborghini. Now, this is the art. Now, you're not going to believe this, but I want you to hear what this woman got up on the pulpit and said to her congregation. At one moment, she was preaching about God, love, and hope. A moment later, she was threatening to stab her critics. The co-founder and former pastor of a South Carolina evangelical megachurch threatened a local newspaper Sunday during a live stream sermon. The threat came as Hope Carpenter shared the stage with the controversial new pastors of Relentless Church in Greenville, John and Aventer Gray, who have been under fire for their lavish spending in recent months. I love you, Pastor John and Pastor Aventer. I believe in you, Carpenter told them. I'm praying for you, and I'm rooting for you. She then changed her tone drastically. I cut people, Carpenter said, right before turning to the audience and pointing towards the front row seat. I got a knife in that pocketbook. Greenville News, come on. We done went through this once. I'm still here, and guess who else is still going to be here? She then pointed to the couple as the audience clapped and cheered. So basically, this televangelist literally pointed at a newspaper and said, because you're writing crap about these other two people who happen to be pastors, I'm gonna cut you. She did the I'm gonna cut you meme.
That's normal.
Is it?
I don't know how people sitting there don't think there's a problem on these pastors. And when you're driving around in a $200,000 Lamborghini and you're threatening to cut people, I would be walking the fuck out. I mean, I know Kyle's been watching things like Benny Hinn, and I'm sure Casey's seen his share of these types of pastors. I cannot imagine anybody in good conscience sitting there going, yeah, this makes sense. This, they live in a $5 million home, driving around in a $200,000 Lamborghini and a $4 million, G5, but they're, advocating for the life of poverty and living like Christ. Okay. Yeah, works for me.
Well, I think to be honest, the majority of American Christians are in it for the community structure that's provided, rather than the conference of any particular values. Not all of them. Some of them do genuinely believe in this stuff, but I think for the most part, just like the sense of community that.
I agreed totally.
Church endows them.
Here's the question that I have, though. I think this speaks to a larger issue because she is threatening a news agency, and we know that the evangelicals are like this with Trump, who also has that same rhetoric of calling news agencies out, wherever he's at and speaking. This is sort of trickling down. I'm seeing with.
Well, I mean, I don't know if Trump ever threatened to stab anybody.
He said he would shoot a guy in the middle of New York, and nobody would do anything.
Sure, but from what I understand in that context, what was the context? I don't think he was like actually threatening anybody. I think he was just saying he could get away with anything if he wanted to.
It was in general. It was definitely an in general statement.
It was just being Trump as usual. But if he actually did threaten somebody, I think that would make national headlines more so than the usual shit.
Well, Casey, do you think these pastors get more emboldened because of Trump, though? Do you think they feel like they can get away with saying more stupid shit because Trump's president? Because we've seen that happen with the regular persons. A lot of people just on the street think they can start being racist, bigoted, homophobic assholes because Trump's president. Do you think that these prosperity gospel preachers are also emboldened a little bit and able to kind of rub it in people's faces? Look at us. We have all your money and you don't have any anymore. And literally throwing it back at them and mocking them. Just like, I don't know if you watched the other day, but we had a video that Kyle had played that we've seen a few times on Robert Tilton, just sitting up there for like an hour. What the hell is he saying?
Oh yeah, he said that he's seen midgets grow. He's seen legs that were shortened. People grew taller.
But what word was he just saying over and over again for like an hour?
Lama lama
lama lama ding dong. I don't know.
Yeah, lama.
It was clearly totally just made up bullshit, and people were just buying it left and right.
Say mama sama,
mama say mama sama, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the unholy laughter, Dave. If you still got that video, you can.
Well, he was saying ha 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 too, but he was also saying something else word too. Like I just don't know what he was saying.
There's another story though too. This one's not so funny, I guess, Dave. We'll go to that next one. This one's kind of I'm going to go through this one again just because I think it bears repeat, just to show you the sort of people that we have in office now. An Ohio State rep said, if police tase or shoot a child, she probably acted stupid or was a punk. Representative John Becker doubles down on his recent comments about the tasing of an 11-year-old for allegedly shoplifting. Now, the long story short of this article is that an 11-year-old was stopped for shoplifting. She had some candy, a book bag. The total that she had on her person was $53. And a police officer tased this girl. And then, of course, it got into the public sphere. And this state representative, let's see, let me find his actual quote. He said that where was his actual quote at? He said that oh yeah. Now listen to this. He said that if his child were shot by police, he wrote, rather than blaming the cop, I'd be blaming myself and endlessly soul searching to figure out how I failed as a parent and why my kid grew up to be such a punk. He said, based on the evidence of what I have seen on television, it oftentimes appears to me that justice was delivered to those dead punks.
Well, in the case of this 11-year-old, in the case of this 11-year-old thing, unless that kid is lunging at you with a knife, there's really no excuse to tase the kid.
Agreed. Absolutely. The kid was running away. That's why she was tased. It wasn't that she was putting up a fight. She was not obeying the officer's commands to come forward. And I guess in a move to subdue her, he tased her.
I guess he couldn't chase after her because his diet of donuts has prevented him from being able to keep up with an 11-year-old.
Yeah,
that was my thing. Like, you don't. It's an 11-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, you don't. Steve, listen to in the article, he said they have a transcript what the cop's saying to the kid, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's under to the terms of, I did not want to do that, honey. You made me do that. It broke my heart to have to tase you like that. And I'm like, then don't tase her.
I read the article. Here's the problem that law enforcement have when they're not properly trained in weapons. Even though a taser is considered to be non-lethal force, it has the potentiality to be lethal force. It can kill. Older people are susceptible, children are susceptible, people in bad health are susceptible. People have died from tasers. You are taking a chance of you might kill the person. And you have to ask yourself, is this person committing such a heinous offense to justify attempted murder to them? Because if they die, you're going to be prosecuted. And obviously this cop didn't have the proper training on use of a stun gun or a taser, whatever you used. You just don't do that, because he probably thought, well, I'm going to show this kid a lesson, or I'm just going to stop them. I have a non-lethal weapon to be used. That's not how you use a non-lethal weapon, because it still is a weapon.
In the article that I saw, it didn't say whether there was any action going to be taken against the cop, like if they were going to. The article mainly focuses on the state representatives. So I'd be interested to see if they're going to take any sort of punitive damages against the cop for that. In that sense, how would you do that? Because the kid was shoplifting. You know what I mean? Like, what would you get the cop for? You know what I mean?
Well, shoplifting, you have to use a measured amount of force, though, right? I mean, so if it's only shoplifting, you cannot use force to in that regard unless they're resisting arrest, right? So you have to use a proportionate amount of force.
That's what he says she was doing, because she wasn't following the order. Yeah. So, like, if it was
I'm sorry, but if you're a grown man, it's 11-year-old, unless she's gouging your eyes out or going for your nuts, I don't think that's really going to be that good.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think you're exactly dead on. I'm just saying, if you take that scenario and you apply it to people that aren't 11, that would be the steps they would take. You know, if I wasn't listening to the cop, I would get tased and taken down and handcuffed. So that's why I'm asking, like, what wouldn't have been excessive force in this case for the because if the cop tackled the girl down to the ground, I think that's you shouldn't do that to an 11-year-old either. I think that's fucked up to spear
a kid died by somebody doing that. A cop
Yeah.
killed a kid by putting him in a chokehold. So
Yeah.
by taking him down. Yeah, they've got to have better training on how to subdue kids. You can't treat them like an adult. Kids are a lot more fragile. I remember one time I was in the wrong place at one time. They were doing a drug bust, and I happened to be walking around the corner. I had nothing to do with the house. I didn't know who even lived there. But they in the bus, there's me and two other people, and they took me, and I was in 6th grade, swung me down on the ground, forcefully, and I'm like, what the hell? Am I getting mugged? And then they announced they're cops and everything, and I'm like, what the hell has happened? But I was like, I didn't do a damn thing to get swung to the ground and thrown in the ground by walking and being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
You deserved it for that comment you made earlier about being dumb. That's what you got.
Was that post hoc retribution?
Yeah,
that happened in 6th grade.
We got about 15 minutes left, guys. So if you have anything that you want to call in about, do so now. Get it in.
We have a caller.
Oh, okay, awesome. Who are we speaking with?
Go, caller. Hello.
You have 7 days to live.
Great. I'm gonna make them
I've
count.
had that people. I've actually had somebody told me that like 12 times. So yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So.
Hi. How is everybody?
Hi.
Good.
We're good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I actually have a question for Steve.
Why do you wait for me? We have KC on. People can ask me questions every time. We have KC on, one of my favorite.
That's fine. Take it, Steve.
I'm going to regret saying this. Hang on, I'm going to regret saying this, but I'm going to say it. KC is one of my favorite YouTubers of all time.
This question, I guess, goes out to the anybody who's an atheist or the majority of the atheist listeners who are in the channel, because I do have a couple conundrums which I'm a little confused on, and my question mainly is how do you differentiate regular what would be an atheist, which fits in the category of a naturalist? Why would they not fit into the category of being a theist if they believe in metaphysics? And some things that I've heard in the content were things like multi-universe, multi-world, dark matter, consciousness, quantum reality, metastability. So I'm a little confused on how the naturalist approaches things like dark matter, which aren't really quantifiable, or at least they're, I guess they're predicted in math, but they're not really tangible to measure. They're more or less predicted based on previous mathematical equations.
But we see the effects of dark matter. We see the gravitational effects of dark matter.
Yeah, what makes dark matter outside the set of naturalism? I mean, I'm not a naturalist. I can't speak for Kyle and KC, and many atheists that I know are not naturalists. They're not synonymous.
I am a naturalist.
I mean, if you're a naturalist, to be a naturalist, it makes sense to be rational. You're an atheist, but not all atheists are naturalists. Naturalists, most are, but not all. I say preponderance would be.
I understand that, but it seems like everyone fits in the category of metaphysical. So in things such as multi-universe, multi-world that are predicted in mathematics, but at the same time, they are not.
Really quickly, this multi-world thing, I don't subscribe to it. It's not something that one necessarily subscribes as a naturalist. There are many people who are naturalists subscribe to world quantum mechanics. Don't. I subscribe to the pilot wave theory.
You're choppy.
You're breaking up.
Refresh.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're really choppy.
Sorry. Is my thing crapping out?
If you hit the refresh button on your browser, it usually clears it up. It'll bring you right back in.
I don't think he's talking about pilot wave. I think he's talking about level 1 multiverse to level 2. I accept level 1 multiverse. I think that's a given. I don't see any way out of that. Level 2, yeah, I'm not so big on that one. Although they say it's
can you hear
possible. Me? Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Now you're better. Crystal clear.
Okay, sorry about that. My connection's been crapping out.
No problem.
Okay, so this many worlds interpretation that you're talking about is not something that is necessary to subscribe to it. I'm hearing a feedback. Can somebody turn off the stream in the background? It's a little bit distracting.
Yeah. Who's what's the caller's name again? I'm sorry. Who are we speaking with? Steve.
Fred for short.
Fred. Do you have the stream playing anywhere?
No, I'm just calling from my actual phone.
Okay, but the stream's not playing anywhere in the background, or you don't have it up because it's we're hearing some feedback. We just need you to mute that.
On.
Okay. All right. Maybe it's cleared up. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So some of the things that you're describing, particularly this many worlds thing, this many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, I don't subscribe to it, and I am a naturalist. That it's not necessary to subscribe to any of these things as a naturalist. So I'm not really sure where this is coming from.
Well, it's a matter that there's you as a naturalist who doesn't subscribe to something that's been logically more or less proven mathematically, and Steve subscribes to it because I understand that maybe he understands more or less the mathematics that are inscribed into the actual theory. But you personally, as in a epistemological approach, just because you do not subscribe to it doesn't mean that it's still not a logical mathematical fact.
Hold on a second. The many worlds interpretation has not been mathematically proven. This is one out of many. This is one of many possible interpretations.
Like I said, there's different things that I can bring up. There's multi-universe, multi-world. There's dark matter. There's quantum reality. Consciousness, even evolution in regards to a Bigfoot, which there's a movie that's about to come out. But in regards to a Bigfoot, that you still haven't mentioned.
Let's rewind that 10 seconds. Hang on, Fred. Can you rewind that 10 seconds for us and say that over again?
Did you say Bigfoot?
What? I said Bigfoot, but in regards to what's actually been taught in the theory of evolution, where there's supposedly a missing link still. And it used to be Lucy, but I know it's been proven false.
Fred, I have to stop you.
Fred, you're going off. You're going off the rails here.
I can go way off, but you have philosophers like Michael Roos who said evolution is more or less its own religion.
For fuck's sake, Fred, take a breath. I need to know this. Did you say that there's mathematical proof of Bigfoot?
No.
Okay.
No, but it sounds like we're conjoining a lot of things under the umbrella of naturalism that don't really have anything to do with naturalism.
More metaphysical naturalism, which is why I don't understand why an atheist who's strictly naturalist will not even
he's using it. Hang on, Fred.
Of being a theist.
Fred, listen to me. When somebody like Casey is saying he's a naturalist, he's saying he is a ontological or metaphysical naturalist. That's how he's using these terms. I'm a methodological naturalist, and I'm sure he's a methodological naturalist as well. But he's actually saying that he holds there is no supernatural, that only that exists is natural. That has nothing to do with whether multiverse exists. That has nothing to do with multi-world hypothesis. That's nothing to do with dark matter. None of that is even relative.
That is supernatural.
And metaphysics just means things dealing with
reality that's been proven true.
What do you mean it's been proven true? What has been proven true?
How are we thinking Bigfoot? That was the thing.
Evolution of Bigfoot. That's what I heard.
Let's put Bigfoot to the side for a second.
Even multi-world, multi-dimension. You have consciousness. You have quantum realities, which have been proven true, but are not tangible or quantifiable.
Proven true? I don't know what you mean by proven true.
Proven true in theory that you believe in things like dark matter.
Yes, because we can observe the effects of dark matter, and it conforms to our predictions about it.
Yeah, there's something there.
Not the actual dark matter itself.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
There's a difference between describing the effects and actually observing what it is.
Well, sure, but if that's the criteria, then we're not justified in saying that there's such a thing as electrons, because we've never actually observed individual electrons. We've only ever observed their effects.
Exactly.
So is it? Hold on, everybody, hold on. would I be correct in characterizing your position as saying that believing in dark matter is equally as absurd as believing in the existence of electrons?
No, but
because by the
thing
criteria
is
that
you
you're
believe in it, and why would that not make any different than just going straight to theism?
no, because my belief is rooted in evidence. It's rooted in an understanding of the manner in which nature behaves. There's no need to take this kind of metaphysical leap of faith.
But you
You
do.
know, we could.
Just said that you can't observe the atom. You can't. There's no way you can observe the proton possibly, but as far as I know, there's no way you observe the proton plus the electron altogether in one observation.
Okay, you can observe the you can observe the effects of what's going on. We could substitute in our discussion. We could say, okay, instead of saying that there exists such a thing as an electron, we could say that there is such a thing as a positive charge, or sorry, as a negative charge distribution, which obeys such and such formulas. And what does that mean? What does negative charge distribution mean? And then we can go on this whole series of definitions where, at the end of the day, we end up with the entire human language, and we don't have any better idea of what's being discussed. The problem seems to be more of a linguistic one than a metaphysical one, or at least your problem with my position.
Fred, can I ask you a question? Do you know any what do we call something that actually has an effect on space-time? What is it that we know can actually cause light to bend? What is that substance that we call that can have that effect, that produces a gravitational effect?
Gravity?
Right? No. What produces gravity though?
It depends which way you want to go by. Apparently, it can be a force. Apparently, it can be.
How about things with mass? Would you agree? Mass can create gravity, or change, affect space time and produce a gravity well. Would you agree? Anything that has mass that has gravity, is that right?
Not at all. Not really. I believe gravity is more of a measurement, more of a straight 9.8 meters per second.
So you're saying mass doesn't have gravity associated with it?
I'm sorry?
Do you really want to go there? Are you really saying that mass doesn't have gravity associated with it?
No, of course.
Are you a flat earther?
Like I said, it's more or less of a measurement, such as 9.8, such as a foot. If I put 1 foot in front of another foot, that's 2 feet, and then as you calculate the laws of physics, you make the measurement of gravity, but it doesn't actually make things round. It doesn't actually. It's more or less of a force. It doesn't make time.
Stick with quantum Bigfoot.
Are you a flat earther, Fred, or you're Poe?
I am not a flat earther.
Okay, so let me finish this real quick. So let's assume arguendo that mass can affect gravity, because it does. It affects space-time. Now, we see things in galaxies having an effect on the stars. We see an effect that only mass can do. We know there's mass there. Can we detect it? Is there any light coming from it? No. We can't see something and it's not lit, what is that? What's the privatization of light? Oh, darkness, dark matter. That's why it's called dark matter. We know it's matter there, but there's nothing being emitted to us that we can detect. There's no photons. Now, there could be something called a dark photon, which I don't think is legit. I think it's WIMPs. But does that not make sense to you? We can't see it. It's dark and it's matter. Thus, they call it dark matter.
It makes sense to me, but the part that doesn't make sense to me is that you somehow believe that the laws of gravity of this 9.8 meters per whatever it is definable somewhere way outside of our own reality, somewhere deep in space.
First of all, it's only on the Earth.
The same laws objectify that we supposedly can measure, where we don't really know, and that's where I mean, as a metaphysician, that you believe these things that you really can't measure, but you still base them off the same laws.
You just said we can measure 9.8 meters per second squared. That's measurable. That's called acceleration under the force of gravity.
I agree with that. I totally agree. Could I just say something? Is observable and quantifiable, but not something that is miles and miles. I'm sorry.
Take a breath, Fred. We're going to give you a chance, okay? You don't have to rush this. Let Casey respond to that, what you just said.
If we were to apply this kind of radical skepticism everywhere, we would not be able to speak sensibly about anything. You would be walking down the street, and we would have to push you out of the way of an oncoming car because you couldn't be absolutely certain that a car was heading your direction. After all, what evidence do you have? What reason do you have to believe that there is actually such a thing as a car? That there's actually such a thing as minds other than yours, and so on and so forth. I mean, if we take this to its logical conclusion, I think we're going to arrive at solipsism.
Mm.
And nihilism, like metaphysical nihilism.
Right, but that's taking a very strict naturalistic approach, which again doesn't really.
No. I'm taking your approach.
He's literally going by what you're saying right now, Fred. He's jumping into your worldview, not his.
No, because his worldview would mean that there's no intentionality, there's no meaning, there's no truth, there's no praise or blame in what he's saying, and he believes what he's saying, which would prove that naturalism is false. Which is why he would construct a metaphysical approach where he believes in things like consciousness and make up his ideas, and it's what he believes in the epistemological approach, which doesn't mean that it's right, but it still constructs what he is and who he is.
I have no idea what the hell you just said.
Science is the only source where metaphysics would show that there's other things outside of nature, such things as multi-world, multi-dimension, dark matter, and so on.
Again, dark matter is not outside of. Okay, it's outside of Earth, obviously, but it's not. When you say world, I understand that to mean universe. But if we're talking, you admitted that the electron would, under this crazy criteria, not be justified for us to believe in. And I think you're simply wrong. I don't think that there's anything about naturalism that requires the same kind of commitment to belief, to this kind of belief that people who believe in the supernatural have.
Right, but if you go on based on a strict naturalistic worldview, you shouldn't believe in intentionality. You shouldn't believe in what you say has any kind of meaning.
I don't believe in intentionality.
I do. I think we all. Well.
Right, which
intentionality.
Naturalism would be false because apparently there's no intentionality in naturalism. It's all based on just straight cognitive faculties that are strict on survival. There's no reason why you would go on straight truth. It's based on survival and what you think is best for the species, right?
Hold on a second. Truth has a tendency to be best for the species. If you do not make an active effort to understand the world around you, if you don't think it's true that the car that you're seeing is headed toward you, guess what? You're not going to survive very long.
Yeah, but those are strictly objectifiable truths. There's no way you can say that this is, I don't want to take this too far, but this is good and this is bad based on the naturalistic worldview. And if you can't define good and bad objectively, then you are going to get
we've moved now. We've now moved
a metaphysical naturalist.
Hold on, we've now moved from metaphysics to ethics. What conversation are we having?
More or less, I don't understand why the metaphysical naturalist or the naturalist who goes against naturalism does not just go all the way toward.
How am I going against naturalism? What is it that I believe that is not natural?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that too.
You believe in quantum realities. You believe in consciousness, which is strictly different from the mind that comes from the brain.
How are those not natural?
You believe in.
Those are in the set of natural things.
You believe in.
Well, hang on, Fred.
I'm sorry,
Fred. Everything you've said is
all
in
of
the
the
set
things
of
that
natural
you're describing
things.
are reducible to natural processes.
Right.
There's no need for me to invoke any kind of magic when describing any of these processes. They all reduce to the things that I recognize as natural processes.
This is straight reductionism.
Yeah, but you can reduce them, but they wouldn't be natural at that point.
Why not?
Quantum realities aren't natural.
Why? When you say quantum realities, do you mean quantum mechanics, or not natural?
Quantum mechanics, like you said, an atom that's not observable, yet you believe it. Things of that sort.
Okay, because I have news for you. The computer that we're using right now to talk, and likely the cell phone that you're using right now to talk to us, that would not exist without quantum mechanics. And I can tell you specifically how. The transistors in your phone, as well as the diodes, utilize something called a p-n junction. And a p-n junction requires a process called electron tunneling to take place. There is no such thing as electron tunneling in classical mechanics. It only exists in quantum mechanics. We could not be having this conversation right now if not for the predictions associated with quantum mechanics. We would not have any digital technology. We would be living in the late 1800s type of technology.
Yeah, there's even a type of
we're still
diode
having
out
this
there.
conversation.
There's a type of diode, not just a PN diode, but there's a type of diode called a Zener diode. Fred, you might want to look up. It actually exists it actually operates in what's called the avalanche region, which is a region where it takes advantage of this tunneling effects. And matter of fact, one of the reasons why it's very difficult to get smaller transistors on a wafer is because of tunneling effects. Because you have to minimize that. You don't want tunneling effects in computer processing because it leads to errors. You want it in certain kinds of diode things, but tunneling effects start around 13 nanometers that you could be noticeable, and when you get down to like 5-6 nanometer level, they're hugely noticeable, and so you try to minimize that. That's why they're having more difficult time getting more transistors on a single wafer. And the reason why we know that theory works is because we actually can show it. That shit doesn't work at a smaller left level because we have to get new technology for it, because we know quantum tunneling is a real thing.
Yeah, so cell phones didn't just fall out of the sky. People understood how quantum mechanics work, and they threw this together based on their calculations. The calculations, which you're saying, are entirely fictional.
Right, but
for all we know, there might be an elaborate scheme. There might be a Cartesian demon. But if there is, he has been giving us all of the goods in the form of the results, in the form of the fruits that we're reaping from our exercise of what you're suggesting are supernatural, even though quantum mechanics really is natural. What does it provide you? What technologies can your worldview produce? What can you bring to the table that'll make us say, okay, this is actually something that's worth considering. Let's expand our metaphysics a little bit, and let's admit this other stuff. Because at the end of the day, this is the currency that buys our belief, results.
Right, but again, I think you're just quantum mechanics more or less would just be an observation. What would make up the cell phone would be things like electrical engineering, things like radio transmission. You really don't need quantum mechanics to make a cell phone.
Yes, you do.
Quantum mechanics would just be the observation of.
Hey.
No. You. In order for the digital technology inside of the mobile device to work, you absolutely do need quantum mechanics. If there's no.
Yeah, I'm a microprocessor engineer by trade. This is the producer, so I can 100% guarantee you that every single digital device in your house relies on quantum mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't know what we were doing with quantum mechanics, none of that would be possible. Not your television, not your radio, not your cell phone, not your whatever else you got. If it's got a semiconductor in it, it's using quantum mechanics.
And I can speak from my experience with nuclear reactors. That shit wouldn't work either if it wasn't for quantum mechanical effects. There's be a lot of problems with running a nuclear reactor if quantum mechanics wasn't a thing.
What's your
but that
you
again,
asked us, Fred, about our religion.
doesn't really answer the question of why you wouldn't just be a theist if you believe what you believe and are not considered a strict naturalist. In that,
hang on, Fred.
Because quantum mechanics produces results and theistic belief does not.
Yeah, fair point. We got a little lag here.
But you believe
Kyle,
that.
Hey, Fred, you got to pause.
I observed
Kyle,
that.
Trying to say something, and you keep stepping on. Kyle, go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. I was just going to ask because he asked us about like being atheist, what his religious background was, or what he believed.
What I believe, I'm not an atheist. I'm not a Christian, but I am surely a theist.
Deist. Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of lost at your question because none of this has to do with atheism or theism or anything even related to either one, or naturalism or supernaturalism. I'm not following your line of reasoning that why a naturalist that accepts things like metaphysical things, because metaphysical things are natural. Knowledge is metaphysics. Beliefs are metaphysics. Time is metaphysics.
Right. God is metaphysics.
Well, I mean, it would fall under a metaphysical thing because it has to do with ontology and existence, right? If it has existential properties, it's going to fall under metaphysics. But
So you
supernatural,
agree?
I don't know what the hell I'm agreeing with you. I don't know what I'm agreeing to here. If God exists, he's going to fall into metaphysics, but it's going to fall under a category of supernaturalism, which necessarily doesn't follow from what you're trying to explain to us, because like KC, he's holding to naturalism, which is another approach to metaphysics. That's all.
Right, but like I said, you believe in metaphysics, and in my definition, metaphysics would
Yeah, but
include a God, which you subscribe to. So at the
no,
same
no, no, no,
time, you
no. You're
subscribe to
confused
that,
here.
but you
You're
don't
confused.
subscribe to
We can
No,
subscribe to
metaphysics, no
metaphysics and
meaning.
not include that God portion in metaphysics if you don't want to. That's just that's not a necessary condition to accept metaphysics. We all accept metaphysics. That's part of reality.
There are plenty of atheist metaphysicians. This
But
you're
metaphysics
mistaken about what this is.
is not consistent with atheism. That's strict naturalist. I'm not inside metaphysics.
What?
No, metaphysics is the study of existence, of the structure
Existence,
of reality.
ontology. Yeah.
Outside reality.
You
That's the actual definition.
No. You're way
No.
confused here, Fred. Yeah, metaphysics. The
you-
study
you-
of knowledge falls under metaphysics. Epistemology is metaphysics. Ontology, being, is metaphysics.
That you believe in, which is why I'm asking why you just don't take the next step and just be a theist.
I don't see how that follows. Casey, help
I
me
think
out
we're
here.
going in
'Cause
circles.
I don't
Because
see. I
you
don't think
believe
he has
in
a
things
correct
that
understanding of
are
metaphysics.
everything that you would subscribe to against a god. It's the same approach that you're taking towards something that you agree is metaphysical. So it doesn't make sense that you subscribe to things that you agree are metaphysical, yet you can't subscribe to a god, which is the same. And you can take the actual same approach to anything that you just concluded was
What do you think?
metaphysical.
What do you think metaphysical actually means? Do you think metaphysical means outside of
nature.
reality? Okay, that's not what metaphysical means.
Not at all. Reality is metaphysics, right? Naive realism is metaphysics.
Then your
Essentialism
argument
is
is against
metaphysics.
the Webster dictionary, because that's exactly
Well,
what the
that's because I'm
dictionary
not
will
in
tell you,
second
that it's
grade and
something
neither is
outside.
KC. You
Yeah,
don't-
the political term
Fred,
doesn't work.
Fred, let me
We can pull up
here.
the dictionary right now. I'll pull up Google definition. I'll just type in metaphysics definition and I'll read whatever comes up. All right, and then you can tell
Sure.
me
I mean,
if the Cartesian
sure
if the Cartesian demon changed it while we weren't looking.
Go ahead.
Well, that's fine. Yes.
But while he's doing that,
the branch of philosophy.
go ahead.
Oh, I have it
Go
right.
ahead. Yeah,
The branch
right.
of philosophy that deals with the first principles of things, including abstract concepts such as being, knowing, substance, cause, identity, time, and space. Last I checked, time and space and all these other things are part of reality.
Yeah, I think that's
objects are
a
not
very
part of
basal
reality.
definition, but it works. There's a lot more to it than that. But yeah,
Hold on,
all
wait.
those are metaphysical things.
So it includes abstract objects.
Abstract
So
objects
descriptions
are not metaphysical,
are not
which
metaphysical.
is why they're called
You're saying.
abstract.
Wait,
Hold on,
abstract what?
Abstract
Is he
objects
really
would be
saying
like
this?
a number, like the number.
Those are metaphysics. That's
100.
called mathematical Platonism. That's part of metaphysics,
Exactly.
dude.
Metaphysics.
Yeah, abstract things are part of metaphysics. Real things are part of metaphysics. Ontology, existence, all metaphysics. Whether if a number exists in a Platonic form, whether it's mathematical Platonism or the other one would be reductionism, it could be one or the other one. These are just approaches to philosophy. They're both still metaphysics.
I understand you, Steve. I really am obliged that I have you in the bag, but I am more or less questioning the strict atheist.
I don't see what makes a difference. I can play the part of a strict atheist, and my answers would be no different.
Because
And I
the
think
strict
Casey's saying the exact
atheist
same
would not
thing.
believe anything outside of nature, which is the metaphysics. There's no metaphysics in naturalism. It's everything is
That's-
strictly inside nature. No Platonism.
That's
And if you
absolute bullshit.
agree in Platonism, then you would not be agreeing with naturalism.
That's just fundamentally wrong.
But why are you saying that quantum mechanics has nothing to do with reality? I mean, it evidently does by virtue of the fact that you and I are even able to have this conversation right now.
Right, but the thing is, you can't observe quantum reality. It's a thing. You theorize quantum reality. You predict it. You make mathematical equations on quantum reality, which is fine. I completely agree with that. But it's the fact that you can't observe it or see it.
accurately predict the manner in which experts in quantum mechanics are going to produce certain results. Again, it's the results that produce the belief, not some commitment to some abstraction for which we have no evidence.
Right, but then that would go back to evolution, where you believe some fish willed his legs to come out of his socket.
Now, we're moving into Poe territory now, Fred. Before I just thought you might have been naive in metaphysics. Now I'm honestly kind of thinking you might just be punking us when you say something as extremely ridiculously naive as that. I mean, are you really positing that, or are you punking us? And I'm being serious here because I really hate Poes.
No, I apologize. It's more or less the narrative that the evolution thing approach takes, that you believe in evolution, but you don't have the strict things to say it's 100% proof, even though it is a fact. I agree with that, but it doesn't.
Theories.
It's more or less on implications.
Casey, did he or did he not just say that according to evolution, a fish will will itself to have legs?
I believe I heard that. Yes.
Now,
because
Fred,
apparently the fish went up to the coast and decided that it needs to survive. And by surviving,
what planet did you live on?
I hear him laughing. He's a Poe. Come on,
yeah,
we're done.
We're done.
Hi.
Fred, you're Poe. My Poe meter has gone off the chart because nobody's that naive. Not even Ken Hovind is that ridiculously. And I can't insult. I got like another week. I can't insult people. Can I get a surrogate insulter in here? Casey, I don't know if I could do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Shannon, don't get mad at me. Can you insult him for me, Casey? Maybe because I can't. I got like another week. I promised Shannon, but I think I can have a surrogate.
I don't feel like. I don't feel like insulting you.
God damn it!
Steve, there's rules. You don't get to use a proxy.
God damn it! That was not in the initial agreement. But do you think he's a Poe?
I think he is.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know. It's I don't like to make any assumptions, but the fish will themselves.
I heard
to
laughing. He's a Poe.
Yeah.
Oh, you think so? So you think that this is just him amusing himself?
Yeah.
I've been amused as well.
Name? That's all that matters, I guess. What's his name?
It's probably Dr. Seigart just coming in here to fuck with us.
Yeah, that must be it.
I'd like that. That sounded like that. You're
crazy guy.
Hi, Casey.
So Shannon, by the way, hi, welcome.
Mm-hmm. Hi.
You know Casey pretty well.
He's all right. Yeah. He's mostly okay. We get along all right. Dave asked me to come in. Are you still taking more callers? What happened to Kyle? Is he sick of your shit? What's going on?
He has to go pick someone up from the airport. So.
Oh, fair enough.
He had a bit to do.
Cool. Are you taking another call? I'm pumped.
You know what? We can't. I got the super chats we got to read out too. I don't want to overtax KC because I know he's a busy guy. But if we can get one more caller that at least is legit, that'd be kind of nice if Casey's up for it. I really hate Poes. They just drive me nuts.
Yeah, like that was a lot of, aside from being a flat earther, that was just every trope I think I've ever heard. There was even a Bigfoot reference in there. That's a treat.
Evolutionary Bigfoot.
Something
yeah.
So
Bigfoot is the missing link.
So he was fitting Bigfoot into the evolutionary model that he doesn't believe in?
Yeah. Yeah, he literally says along the lines of evolution, evolved into Bigfoot or something. And then he said like Lucy was the missing link, which, by the way, Lucy was never posited as any missing link. And by the way, there was no such thing as a missing link in biology. That was something in the 70s that they kind of threw that vernacular around. But there's never really been such a thing, right? Because what's missing? There's certain things that are basal to different groups, like Pyrolithopithecus catalonicus was basal to all members of Homidia, but we've discovered that in Spain a couple of years ago, so that's not even a missing link for that.
I think that's one of the things that people clam onto, though, is that vernacular, like the word missing link. They think that it's linear, that, we have this one and this one and this one, but we don't have this one, so we can't finish the model because this one particular thing is missing, just because that vernacular exists.
So, should I bring on one more caller just randomly?
Casey, you got time?
More.
One more.
I'll do
Glad for punishment.
You'll do it for me. Won't you, Casey?
Sure.
I can be quite compelling.
All right, caller, you're
Your
on.
feminine wiles don't work on him. You know that, right?
I know. Oh God, I'm well aware.
And plus, he's about third your age.
You know what? Shut your stupid fucking face, Steve. Thanks. That's why I like him more than you. God damn it. Such an asshole.
How young do you think I am, Steve?
Hello?
You're 20. I thought you were 24. Am I off?
Yeah,
Give
I'm
us a
24.
second.
Yeah. Okay. So-
Yeah, Steve, we're pretty much the same age, so shut your stupid face. Exactly. Shut
he's a
up!
kid. I got socks older than him.
Hello?
Clearly only about 25.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes. Sorry for the drama. How's it going? Caller?
I'm on air. This is the NonSequitur show?
Yes.
It is. Yes. Unless you know something we don't know. We could be somewhere completely different and have no idea at this
I
point.
want to. This is the first time I ever managed to talk to that. I love the show. Anyway, the question I want to ask to Casey was what is his opinion about the new trend about apologetics that is migrating about quantum theory and misrepresenting the quantum theory to promote his bullshit. What would be, in his opinion, the best way to argue to counter that new trend they are making?
So the trend that I've noticed, especially with someone like Inspiring Philosophy, what is this noise? Who's?
Somebody's typing.
Yeah, I think Dave's going nuts.
Okay. Whatchamacallit? Yeah, the trend that I noticed with people like Inspiring Philosophy is that they'll give an account of quantum mechanics and certain studies within quantum mechanics that are correct, but he's going to they oversell the extent to which a particular interpretation, particularly the Copenhagen interpretation, is understood to be correct. And like I said earlier in the show, there's no correct interpretation as far as we know. All of the interpretations are identical in terms of the they produce at this time. If you hype one particular interpretation over another, that's just the correct interpretation of quantum mechanics, as I like to say, is whatever interpretation helps you think about how the systems work. But you all have someone like Inspiring Philosophy who subscribes to ontological idealism, this idea that reality is basically mind first, and specifically God's mind. And they'll try to draw a kind of connection between idealism and the Copenhagen interpretation. And they're not alone in this. There are other types of people, New Age people, who try to jump on this kind of idealistic quantum mechanics bandwagon. And it just bears repeating that there's no such thing, as far as we currently know, as the correct interpretation of quantum mechanics. And whatever leaps you make from the correct interpretation of quantum mechanics, assuming there is one, to this kind of metaphysical idealism, these are big jumps that are not necessarily warranted by any actual experiment. So that's sort of where I would put that.
So I want to know if I can ask a quick question to Steve.
Yeah.
Okay. Is about the whole agnostic versus theist debate that is going on. I really have my personal view is that I feel like that if most people, if they actually make the decisions that they actually tend to go or theist or atheist, and I feel that sometimes what they're doing is like avoiding to taking not answering the question, but acting like they do. For example, the question is, are agnostics forced to act like if there is a God or not, regardless that there is no way to prove that a God exists or not?
Let me see if I can parse out what you said. So for the atheist, you're asking something about them having to prove that a God exists or not? Is that your question?
Well, I had listened to your about your opinion about what the philosophical meaning of atheist is, and I agree with you. But I am being a little more pragmatic in the way that the word is being used, because I don't know how to say it. Regardless, okay. I really don't know how to close the way.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you're at. I mean, I heard the part. I mean, you agree with. I mean, I use philosophical lexicology, I guess, terminology of the words. So to me, I hold that atheism is the belief that God doesn't exist. That's how it is in the literature, almost ubiquitously. Other people may not, right? They'll use a more lax definition, more broad definition, which is perfectly fine for them to go do. But that doesn't mean that they have to prove that God doesn't exist. If an atheist says, I believe that gods don't exist, they don't have to prove that. They only have to prove that if they say, I can prove gods don't exist. Theists the same way. A theist does not have to demonstrate or prove that a God exists unless they say they can do that.
How well, I don't know if the question is fair, but how could we know, like, there is not like, dodging the question is saying or taking a stand for example, like, if I say I believe in God, but I act like if there is no God, like, that won't be like a contradiction to what I say I believe.
Well, I mean, if you're a theist and you believe in God and you don't is he asking? I'll show this over to Shannon. I think he's asking, is there a contradiction if you're a theist and you act like there is no God? Like performance contradiction.
Well, you'd have to qualify for me what act like there is no God means.
Mm-hmm.
What does act like there is no God means? Because
I'm an atheist, so I think we all act like there is no God by virtue of the fact that we act and there is no God.
Exactly that.
How? Like, what does acting like there is no God look like, Casey? How is it in any way differentiable from? Yeah, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I act like there's no God.
Oh, I was being facetious. I said that we all act like there is no God, regardless of whether we believe in a God or not, because there is no God and we still act.
Oh, I got you. Oh, I see what you did there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, I mean, I act like, I mean, like, I don't act like there is a God, right? So the negation of that would basically, I'm acting as I don't have a God belief, right? It's not that I'm acting as if God didn't exist. I'm acting as somebody who doesn't have a God belief. It's not quite the same thing. They're two different things. And so to somebody who's a theist, they're acting, if their actions are in accordance with their beliefs, that just means that they have actions not in accordance with their beliefs. We all have things like that. People can believe smoking is bad for you, but you still smoke sometimes, right? That's performance contradiction. But
I do that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to too, right? I mean, for 25 years I smoked. And so a theist can basically crap all over theism if they want, and still go, yeah, I believe in God. I'm just not going to do anything in my life that changes anything. That's perfectly,
like, are you talking about from a cognitive perspective, or are you talking about from a cognitive perspective or from a behavioral perspective? Because then you're entering into my territory. So when you say act like they believe there is no God, you mean that their actions are in contradiction to their belief system? Because that's an entirely different question. Or are you suggesting that there is a way that anybody would act if they believed there was a God, and that there's a stark differentiation between the way that somebody would act if they did believe there was a God, as opposed to if they believed that there was not a God, or if they did not believe in a God?
That question was for me?
Yeah.
Yo, I'm gonna step out. Before you all continue, I'm just gonna step out really quick because I gotta run off right now. It's Friday night and I've got to dash. But it's been great joining you all, and this has been fun. We'll do this again.
Absolutely, buddy. Yeah, we're going to be wrapping this up right after this caller, and we want to thank you for coming on. If you guys haven't checked out KC, go check out King Crocoduck's YouTube channel. It's one of my favorite channels. He had been one of the first people years ago to actually shout out me, and he was one of the biggest influences that I've had when I first got to YouTube was watching his stuff. He probably doesn't know much of that because I don't like to stroke his ego. But he is one of my favorite YouTubers. Go check him out. He's just an awesome dude, and he knows his shit. I mean, his videos are legit, straight up good. So, but anyway, buddy,
Well,
thanks
thanks.
for dropping in today, buddy.
All right,
Shannon,
see
your
ya.
videos are excellent too. But you're not a legend
You're
yet.
goddamn right there.
Yeah.
You're such an asshole.
I told you I was really impressed by your Jordan Peterson. I was even telling Kyle, I was like, "Have you
You
watched the video
did.
yet?" He hasn't even
Thank
watched it
you.
yet, so I did, and I didn't know the full extent of that situation, and you explained it so freaking well to the point where even I was going, "Okay, now I get it," right? Because I didn't know what the hell JP was. Yeah, so that I learned something.
For you. That's awesome.
You elucidated very well. But anyways, back to his thing. Answer her question. Are you talking about a behavioral thing or are you talking about a cognitive thing?
I really think both are the same in my opinion. I know that might be incorrect, but if you think one way, you will act like one way. So that is why I think they are both the same. Maybe I'm wrong. You can explain me why.
Oh, okay. So that to me, that would tell me that you're thinking that it's a perceptual or a cognitive thing. So you're not, when I say behavioral, I'm not talking about how you elicit actions internally and how they manifest because of the way you think. I'm talking about somebody from the outside looking at how you behave and holding it against a standard. So the question I was asking was, are you asking whether or not somebody behaves differently from an external perspective, like behaves as if, let me rephrase this for a second. So it seems to me that your question is, if somebody believes in God, like thinks that there's a God exists, but behaves as though there isn't a God, you would have to have a set of standards to hold that behavior to. So you would have to say, if somebody believes in God, then they act in this fashion. If somebody does not believe in God or thinks that a God does not exist, then they act in this fashion. And the two fashions are distinctly different in a qualifiable way. So you can, like, if you follow through that if-then statement, at the end of it, there's two different qualifications that you can see are clearly different. So in order to do that, in order to answer that question, first, I would need you to explain how you would qualify that. Like, what does someone who does believe in God act like, as opposed to somebody who does not believe in a God or doesn't believe that God exists? Does that make sense? Because I know there's a bit of a language barrier that's hard, so I'm trying to be clarifying.
I will go with something with what Steve say, behavior contradiction, because if somebody can claim whatever thing they want, but at the end of the day, like, they have to make a decision that the community or conscious or unconscious that, okay, I cannot prove that God exists. I cannot prove that God doesn't exist. So I would say I would be agnostic, but the way the person will act is like either if he speaks the former or the latter.
Well, again, a theist doesn't have to prove God exists.
The question was explain myself correctly.
You just if you accept there's a God, you believe there's a God, you're only making the claim as a belief position. There's no onus upon you to prove anything. There's no onus upon you to demonstrate that God exists or do any kind of logical proof for it, unless that is your claim. If you say that you're a theist and you can actually prove to people mathematically or logically there's a God, or you can actually show his existence, that's a hell of a different claim. That requires a completely different burden of proof, right? But if you just have a belief thing, that's totally fine with that. What's that?
Oh, I agree. I agree with what you're saying right now.
Yeah, a lot of people, and it's funny when I hear atheists talk about that, because they're doing themselves a disservice. Because when they say a theist has to prove that God exists, well, no, because now you have atheists like people like Shannon, who is a very stout, anti-theist and person who believes there are no gods. You're telling her she has to do the same thing, and she doesn't. As an atheist, she doesn't have to prove God does not exist. And so you really don't want to go around telling theists that they have to prove that God exists, because that's not their claim.
Right.
Just like Shannon won't claim that she can prove there's no God, because I think that she wouldn't be able to even come close to meeting that burden of proof.
Neither
but she can
camp
definitely
could come
justify
close.
her belief. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Neither camp could come close. It's not. I don't think it's provable or disprovable, really.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think that I call that a straw man when people say, well, prove your God to me. Well, that's not what their claim is. You're straw manning their claim. Now, if you say justify why you believe God exists, that's where you go in and you attack that from that front. Because a theist might not be justified for their holding their belief, right? They might have bad reasons for believing in God. Then you get them to reevaluate that if that's the case. But that's the same for any position. That's what straight epistemology does.
Most people on either side are essentially saying there's better reasons to believe what I believe, or at least that the reason to believe what I am the most compelled by the reasons that were presented to me to believe what I believe. And here, let me present you those reasons, the reasons that compelled me. That's how that works. Anybody would be an absolute moron to walk into, or just completely arrogant beyond the pale, to walk into a conversation and say, I can prove God does exist, and or I can prove God does not exist. Because I don't really think that anybody can do either of those things. It's just a matter of it's probability scale.
Yeah, no, I just sit back and go, oh, really? I'd love to hear your arguments on this. Yeah, go for it. And people do say it. Yeah, it's not, but it's so funny because it's I would say it's 3 standard deviations out. It's a very small percentage, but those handful of atheists that say they know and can prove there are no gods, and there's a handful of theists that say they know it and can prove God exists. They're far and few between, but those are my favorite ones because you're like, really? Okay, let's discuss this, because I just don't think that you can. But I mean, you got really good justificatory reasons, right? I think that's what Shannon said is spot on. I love the way she put that. It's like, you have reasons. Let me explain to you those reasons. And you may be convincing to somebody, right? And if you think you have better reasons than somebody else, then the people listening in might be more convinced one way or another. I mean, I know atheists have very good justificatory reasons for being atheist. I know some theists that have some okay reasons for being theist. But even still, they're still justificatory, right? And so you can't just say there's no reason to have a position either way. It's just, let's talk about those positions, and people can decide for themselves which one's better. That's why people do listen to these things, and why they change their positions. Would you agree on that, Shannon?
Yeah,
people change their position because they listen to that kind of stuff.
As much as it hurts my feelings every time I agree with you, yeah, I agree there.
I know. Yeah,
I know.
Really not
like
controversial.
I'm physically in pain right now. I'm replacement Kyle.
I'm only finding this stuff's controversial with people that don't really bother to go really, think about what we're saying, because what we're saying is not even controversial in the realm of epistemology. It's just standard.
Yeah,
but anyways, you ready for some
something
super
like
chats?
within the realm of oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, but when you say something like within the realm of epistemology, it's not even controversial within the realm of epistemology. That operates under the assumption that most people are like in the realm of epistemology and are used to talking about the realm of epistemology. So like when it seems dismissive when you say that.
Yeah, I don't think so, because look, if we say, in the thing of evolution, it's pretty common that evolution is a change of Lake frequency. That's common, right? Now you could say, oh, well, a lot of people don't know that because they don't know biology, but I think most people, when they
yeah, but
have
people operate epistemically without realizing that they do operate epistemically. So
absolutely,
when you talk about that, you're essentially saying you don't even understand anything about the way you think.
Sometimes that's true, though.
Stephen.
Well, I mean, what do you want? What do you want me to do? Lie to you? Okay, let's give it some super chats here. Okay, can you pretend you're KC, by the way?
Thank you for the answer.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for a phone call. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, and I think he's turned off the line, so sorry. But Shannon, can you pretend you're Casey for the questions that Casey missed?
Yeah, sure. I'm a fantastic physicist. That's one of the best things about me, is how much I know about the physics.
Yeah, you're gonna do awesome for these. There's only a handful. All right, corrupt syntax, $2. Is 0.0999 repeating really 1? No, 0.0999 repeating is 0.1. 0.99 repeating is 1. Okay. Ken Hovind, CPA, $2. King Crocoduck, talk about the evolution of human conscious. Oh, that's right up your alley. There you go.
Oh my gosh, I could talk about the evolution of human consciousness for so.
Should that be a new
how
show?
long do we have? Yeah, like you can't answer that in just a few minutes. The evolution of human consciousness? Yeah, I could talk about that for a while. Like,
I mean, you
Sorry?
can do a synopsis right now for the super chat, but if you, I don't think.
I
Well, I
could.
don't know. It's the week. Yeah, no, it's the.
Well,
It's the weekend.
there's really no synopsis that could do it justice. But for starters, there's no ultimate consensus about the evolution of human consciousness, but there's a lot of different and interesting theories that have some efficacy. One of the theories that I find the most interesting, I think I actually talked about it on one of your live streams, Steve, has to do, and I wish I could find this series of studies that I read a while ago, with systems becoming aware of themselves in order to operate. So as multicellular systems start to gather more components, those components need to be able to communicate with one another in order to function. So if you have a certain cell that sends a message to another cell in order for it to operate, like that series of messages starts to accumulate. And as those systems become larger and more complex, you need more intricate networks in order to be able to establish that communication. And as those more intricate networks start to be able to establish, they overlap each other. And you need communication between independent networks. When you need communication in between independent networks, then you get something that starts to resemble a brain. So when you have something that starts to resemble a brain that is essentially operating multiple networks in order to communicate between the networks and relay messages so that they can coordinate within and amongst themselves, and that starts to layer and layer and layer and become more complex. That communication network starts to almost have to have a regulatory system of self-awareness. And that regulatory system of self-awareness, once you have the ability to perceive the external world, once you have sensory perception, once you need to be able to navigate the environment, starts to take in external stimuli as an additional component. And that external stimuli feeds into the internal communication and starts to create something that resembles an early form of consciousness, because you're not only aware that you're a system that's operating, but you're aware that you're a system that's operating within an environment. And so that builds upon itself until essentially you become evolved to be incredibly attuned and aware to your environment and how you operate within it in order for your system to operate effectively. So if you become ultimately attuned to your environment and how you navigate within it, and then you're in a social species, or a species that exists and starts to evolve in a social network where you have reciprocal relationships and things like that, and you have to, and it's beneficial for your existence to have that sort of cohesive network, then you start to have additional forms of perceptual awareness that have to do with relationships and not just environmental input in order to survive and navigate the environment. And that adds a layer to that network, which is like earliest forms of what we would call consciousness, which is essentially self-awareness in a system. And I could say more on that, but that was like a really brief, like rudimentary hypothesis of what am I.
Can you repeat that backwards now?
No. I'm amazed.
Okay. No, you were on my channel, and we've had that discussion on my channel, and of course I agree with all that. And also I find it interesting that at the same time when we're developing conscious, we're at the same time developing ways to continually produce more energy, ATP, to make up, to allow for these processes to have interconnectivity, which is a kind of an interesting thing for biology. Things take energy, right? So you have to have more energy being produced. And if it wasn't for certain things of the multicellularity and like mitochondrial endosymbiosis, that would have never been the case for us to have something along the lines of a brain, I don't think, because we just wouldn't have enough the energy to have those neural pathways to have that communication. So it's a lot of fortuitous events that allowed a consciousness to occur, which I do think is I'm not going to say this is an argument for ID, but it's basically to argue ID. That's the direction I would go.
It's not really though, because like when you look at it, essentially we're incredibly selfish because we're like the best at consciousness. So we've instantiated a form of consciousness, like self-awareness and reciprocity, that allows us the additional tool of communication, being able to be aware of each other's consciousness, like being able to understand how each other feel, being able to identify what feelings even are, quantifying feelings. Mm-hmm. But because of that, we see ourselves as unique, but that doesn't mean we are. We don't know that other species don't have something similar without the added level of complexity of having complex communication strategies that allow us to detail information about ourselves to each other in a really sort of finite and very drilled down and detailed fashion. Other species don't seem to have that. There is an argument that's made that whales kind of do, but we can't really communicate with them. But it's incredibly selfish, I think, to think that we're unique in that aspect just because we're able to create art and we're able to communicate with each other. That may have just been a lucky stroke that we sort of kind of stumbled into that, and that propelled our ideas of what consciousness is and helped us to instantiate a more honed and attuned form of consciousness. Anyway, I'll shut up now. I could talk.
Yeah, we're definitely species
fucking
centrist. I mean,
hours.
but if we're gonna measure success by something like honey production, the ability to spit out and make honey, we would suck at that. So it's all relative to what your niches in the ecosystem, right? So I mean, we tend to think that we're species centrist. What's that?
Like, do you think our instantiation of consciousness is unique? But do you think that our instantiation of consciousness, like, what makes it better or more like consciousness than any other animal? Like, what can we look at aside from the fact that
It's self-awareness,
build buildings?
just a higher degree of self-awareness and empathy and things of that nature. And
What's a
not that
higher
other primates don't have
degree?
that stuff.
Elephants have empathy.
Yeah.
Like, there's
I mean,
so many species that have the things that we use to quantify our version of consciousness, our instantiation of consciousness, as unique and better. And we don't know that the way that a whale experiences consciousness isn't in very many ways quantifiably and qualifiably unique from how a dog experiences consciousness. Those could be very different forms of consciousness, but who's to say that one is more conscious than the other, unless you find a really palpable way to qualify them. And I don't know that anybody really has, aside from saying we make art and build buildings and write books. Yeah, we do. But what's your argument? That makes us more conscious? Why?
No, I think like I said, I think it's more self-aware of it, and we're able to communicate and build upon that and learn from each other, in ways that are in a much more effective means of communication. But we gotta get through these super chats.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm derailing everything.
It's great. No, it's Cookie Nibs, $10. Thank you, Cookie. Another one for KC. This was actually from Jason Snyder first. $5. KC, this is you. What is your current consensus on Hawking radiation? What is the historical consensus on it? Yes, Shannon. What's your theory on Hawking radiation?
I think it's the worst. It's the worst. It's the worst theory I've ever heard.
Hawking radiation isn't
garbage. I can't even believe you asked me that question.
Hawking radiation is a theory. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but it pretty well, I think, mathematically has to exist. Hawking radiation will cause a black hole to eventually evaporate, because what happens is on the boundary condition of the black hole, you have particles being created all the time from quantum level. And if it's on the boundary condition, one virtual particle can actually go into the black hole and fall into it, making the other one a real particle that goes out from the border of the event horizon. So you have this boiling away of a black hole because you have all these virtual particles in the boundary condition being split, one going into the black hole, and then you have the real particle being come out, and that's going to impart or take matter away from the black hole. It's going to take energy away from it, and matter and energy related. But the time that the black hole to evaporate is on the orders of 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the 10th power. I mean, we're talking trillions and trillions of years from now for any of the supermassive black holes to ever actually boil away. A small micro one will boil away in microseconds, but yeah. But anyways, Cooking Nibs, KC, $10. What is the most interesting recent discovery in physics that has you excited? I'm going to speak for him today because I just talked to KC this morning about this. On the 10th, April 10th, they're going to release the first picture of the event horizon, direct observation of event horizon of a black hole. That's going to be cool. They say it's going to be groundbreaking. So, Kiwasa, 5,000 W, which I think is $10, $20. But thank you, Kiwasa. The non-sec experience is sure having fun with that phone line. Yes, we are. I happen to like it. Dave, you like it?
Yeah. I like it. I
Dave,
called
like
in.
Yeah.
Do I like it?
Are you on the line now, or no? You got a link.
No,
what's that, Dave?
She's on VMAX.
She's hardwired in. Okay.
But it's okay. it's kind of a pain to man because they call and I've got you guys in my headset the whole time. So I'm trying to have a conversation with them and it's like they don't understand that I can hear you because they can't hear you till I connect them in. It's like,
Yeah. Too bad you don't have like a monitoring system that you can do a separate monitoring for it. But no, I've been doing the same thing. We've had them call in on my channel as well. We have Ask a Philosopher. I'm going to have Ask a Mathematician next week for a friend of mine who's a PhD student in maths that he wants to come on. And I'm doing a reformat of that level things too, where we're going to have people call in like they do on this show as well. So that's going to be fun. We might even have Ask a psychologist if Shannon wants to come on one of these days, but she'll talk for like 5 hours.
I will, and I'm not a practicing psychologist for the record.
No, but I mean that's still one
Don't
of your
call it for
areas, though.
therapeutic.
Yeah, she'll give you therapy, but she doesn't give you a refund. Justin James Howman, $5. Can King Crocoduck explain alpha? Find structure constant like I'm 5 years old. 1 divided by 137. If you wanted to, the most simplest way to understand the find structure constant is 1 divided by 137. True story. That's what it is. But find structure constant is a variable, just a constant of the universe that has to do with orbitals and how orbitals electron can jump from one orbital to another, producing a line in the spectrum. And when you look at a line in the spectrum, right, you'll actually see that line is actually split, meaning that there's been a transition at a little bit higher energy and a transition at a little lower energy, and that produces 2 lines that look like one line. That's called the fine structure. And so the fine structure constant determines the distance between those 2 lines or the transitions of those 2 lines. And it happens to be approximately equal to 1 over 137. Vandy, 004, $2. Discount Garden Gnome. Hi. That was, I'm guessing, to Kyle.
I'm replacement Kyle. Me, right? Okay. Hi.
So she's a replacement discount Garden Gnome. My Unfinished Journey, $2. Longtime listener, first time super chatter. Thank you. Yay. This is from a person called Shannon Q, I think. $2 Canadian, which is about 15 cents American. And kill me, she says. Yes, kill me.
I stand by that.
Is that a directive, or is that let's see here.
Well, I came
Athena
in literally right when Buddy was talking about Bigfoot, so I meant it.
Yeah.
That's what I started watching.
That window.
And to be completely transparent, Shannon, he's why I wanted you to come on. So
I thought I was replacement Kyle because Steve can't do shit on his own or everything flies off the rails.
I know.
Well, it was fortuitous. It was fortuitous that Kyle left and left in a spot.
Athena got us a witness and welfare, $5. Fred, you're embarrassing yourself. Just stop, open a book, and learn to understand these topics. You give a lot of lay people a bad name. I'm convinced he was a Poe, Athena. Don't worry, he was a Poe. Kate and Chloe, $2. Kate, congratulations on being married. And Kyle actually married them. Yes, this is not like people think people are faking that. He actually is certified to marry people. He actually did marry them. That's not a joke or anything. He really actually did. Hi, other KC and Reverend KC from KC. That's a lot of KCs. How many KCs are there around here? Shannon, why don't you just change your name to KC? Bombay, $5. If metaphysics is true, why are there still monkeys? Or is it just diffraction? It's the theory of dropity. Reverend Newt, 500 yen. Love the album on iTunes. Now, my go-to driving music. Yeah, I got to admit, I'm glad Kyle's not here because he would never let me forget this. I really dug that album. I mean, that was some good freaking work on those tunes. And I've heard them all before, but it was nice to have it all compiled. And you can go to iTunes and you get all the music from NonSequitur in one album off iTunes.
And Steve,
it's really good.
You're soaking in it right now.
Oh, of the visual. Well, that's just the visual for the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's visuals from the album.
Yeah. Michael Kiram, $2. Love you, Steve. Cajun Crustacean, $1, no comment. Thank you. By the way, I do want to appreciate. I will tell you guys, I do appreciate the fact that people that have YouTube Red, the paid version of YouTube, they get $2 a month. They can donate to any of their super chat people that they want. And so I noticed a lot of people are giving us $1, which is I'm assuming comes from that super chat thing that the Red Tube users get. So I do appreciate that you are utilizing that for us. Apologetically Atheist, $10. I wanted to ask King Croc to answer a physics question, but all I got was voicemail. I don't know how to call in. How does the order work? It's just luck of the draw because it doesn't put them on hold or anything, does it? It's just whoever calls them first, right?
It's basically just call waiting. So like I can merge one other call in, and then it would become a conference call, and I could keep merging people in. But there's no queue order or anything. There's no way for me to go to the next one and them just to stay on hold.
You can do what I did. I just called over and over and over and over and over.
Smash that redial.
She had this. She had it on speed dial.
I just kept hitting redial over and over and over again, and redial and redial. Redial. That's how I got in.
Okay, so Bombay, $10. Australian, I think it is. Question for Stephen Casey. Where do I start when trying to find scholarly info on modern science? For example, when someone claims the universe had a hard beginning point, to find papers that I can quote. Google Scholar and Google Books. That's where I go to for any of that stuff. I mean,
you're gonna hit paywalls though.
Well, there is a way around paywalls as well. I mean, if you go to Hub.
No. Oh, Steve, don't encourage.
I mean, I'm not recommending doing that because it's a questionable service. But if you really want to read a paper, they have a lot of the most common papers there that shouldn't be behind paywalls. So I got no issue with going to Sci-Hub and actually finding the DOI number and looking at those papers, because every one of those papers you really can find if you really go searching for them out there. But it's just a convenient place that they're there, and because I like to read papers, so
I do too.
Yeah, and Google Scholar is great too. Even though, Google Books is great, even though they're missing pages and a lot of stuff. You don't get the whole book, obviously, most of the time, but you can get enough of it to really kind of give you a good overview of what's in there. But that's just where I would go to for those things. I mean, Shannon, do you got a place you go to other than those?
There's times that I use Google Scholar. I can get paper access through academic sites, so I'm lucky that way. But there are times when I've been looking for papers that are outside of my field that I've actually, and a good thing to do if you're really, really interested in the subject matter is actually, like, if you read the abstract of a paper and it's really something that you're interested in, reach out to one of the authors of the paper. Usually they hold office hours and you can email them. And if you're legitimately interested in the work that they're doing, they'll not only forward you the paper, they'll answer your questions about it.
And I can testify that that's how I met Dr. Malik. I didn't know how to get his paper, and I found out later how to do it. But I requested it. He actually sent me a copy of his paper, and we actually corresponded for several months about his paper. And it was a great conversation that we had with him. He was more than willing to talk about his work.
Yeah,
right? So
you meet so many academics that were like, if you have a legitimate interest in the field, they're excited to talk about it because in their real life they don't get to talk about it as much as they would like. Really, so
I was thrilled. I was like, wow, and he doesn't, when they communicate with you, they don't treat you like an idiot, but they don't assume that you're on their level.
No.
But they're enough to have a conversation with you that you go, this is really an awesome conversation. This is what a true dialogue on the topic should sound like. And I was thrilled that they'll do that. So yes, I can guarantee most of them will do that. If you want, especially recommending right from them, they're like, oh, somebody's requesting my paper. Shit, yeah, read what I got. I mean, if somebody said to me, hey, Steve, I want to read your blog, which is I'm not going to put on the same level as paper, but if somebody say, Steve,
no one's
I
gonna
heard
say
really
that
good
to
things
you.
about your paper. It's happened once, okay? I'm going to send him to
There
right.
was that
It's
time
happened
my
once.
mom said it
That
was
one
fun.
time, then they read it and said, what the hell did I just read? Hey, I got to admit,
And
my
another thing
blog
I'll
may
do
not be paid. What's that?
I was just gonna say another thing they do before we go on is that they'll actually suggest other things that are relatable and relevant
Yes.
if you want to continue researching because it's their field that are probably more helpful than you just randomly searching Google. That's only if you're really interested in it though. Don't just start emailing people because you want to read their stuff. Only if you really want to research, because don't waste their time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you probably like to, request one paper every so often, not like, 10 people you're
Yeah.
requesting papers from. But yeah, I mean, but like I said, my blog may not be paperwork quality, but I do have a lot more people. I see how I mentioned what traffic I got, and my blog post will get several hundred hits, which is more than it ever used to get. I used to get like 3 a hit, 20 a hit. Now I'm getting like 300-400, which means there's people reading it, and I don't have anybody really messaging me going, "Hey Steve, I'm an expert in this field, and you really screw the pooch." I'm waiting for that one blog post that I do that with, though. It's going to happen when I write something that's so damn stupid. Somebody's going to message me going, "Steve, what the hell are you thinking?" And I'm going to be like, "Well, I talked to Shannon that day, and she fucked me all up, and I just started writing and see what happened."
Steve, you know what? I've had enough of your shit. I read your blog. Your blog's good.
I think it's formative. I mean, I think they're good primers, right? I think they're if you just want to get like a basic overview. But I like reading blogs, like Katie's blog, like from Pathos on Without a Crystal Ball. I like reading that kind of stuff. I actually read Menteds too, so I do read blogs, believe it or not. I find them to be very informative. Anyways, let's move on here. Athena got us to Witness some Warfare, $2. Shannon can come on my channel and talk about it. Okay. And Willie Merck, $5. With advancing technologies, do you guys think an upload or download of consciousness is possible in the near future? We had an episode on this. It was with what's his name, Arthur. What is Arthur's last name? We did a thing on this.
I know who you're talking about, though. I remember,
yeah, that was
because I watched it, and I know who you're talking about. His channel's really interesting, and I can't remember the name of his channel right now either on call. But I think I kind of disagree with him because there's too many biological components involved. Like, I don't know how it would be transferable without.
Yeah, no, I've actually had the same objections. I think that because of, and I hate to say quantum, but I think because of the unknown variables, I think because of quantum things, I don't think you could actually. And again, don't have enough justification to really say this, and so this is an irrational belief of mine, but I have to accept that. But I don't see how you can map consciousness to a physical level and have something like a bijection where you have a 1-to-1. I always think that there's going to be something that's missing from the original, where it's not going to be an exact duplicate, especially because you're changing medium, right? If you're going from a biological source to a physical source, there cannot be a 1-to-1 correspondence that we have for consciousness and for engrams and things of that nature. So personally, I'm very dubious that we can transfer consciousness to download to a computer, and I'm probably going to be on the fringe for that. And if you ask me to justify it, I'm going to tell you straight right now, I probably
can
can't.
justify the crap out of it right now.
Well, but you study this shit. So you can. Isaac Arthur. Thank you, Isaac Arthur. Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. It was really interesting to listen. But
I love him. I love him.
It ignores the fluidity of consciousness too, and it ignores the role that perception plays in the development of consciousness and cognition. So if you transmit your existing, let's even say for the sake of argument it's possible, which I don't think that it ever will be or can be. If you can take who you are right now out of your body and transmit it into a system, there's things, perceptual things, that you can't guarantee that you can manifest similarly. Like
quality?
What you experience. Yeah, yes, exactly. I mean, you could, I guess, write a program that gives the artifice of those experiences, but like you said, there can't be a 1-to-1. It can't be the same thing. Exactly. And those experiences that you have in the world, they accumulate to form your consciousness. So the best you can say is that you'll have something that's similar to consciousness, which I still don't even think it's friggin' possible, and I could get into that later. God, I could do this all day. But
it'd be a facsimile at best.
Something that's similar, or something that simulates consciousness. And
well, I guess I can justify that. I just think as Shannon said.
And there's some simulated version of something that's kind of like you, that is maybe self-aware, but is having experiences that aren't even moderately on a 1-to-1 ratio the same as the experiences that you might have had you not transmitted yourself outside of your body.
Yeah, I think we're on the exact same page as that. So I guess I really can probably justify it more than I thought I could, because what you said exactly is what I think as well. Willie Merck, one more. Was that a Poe or the son of Southern Israelite? Definitely a Poe, I think. Yeah. I think that's the last one. All right, so I think we're about done for the night. Shannon, you got anything upcoming? You want to plug anything? Want to talk about Faithless Forum because you're going to be a guest speaker and you're going to talk for six hours. I think they
I'm
give you like a
not.
whole day to you. I mean, it's like the Shannon
They
Day. It's
probably
Saturday
should have.
Shannon Day. Yeah.
Maybe they should have. I don't ever actually shut up. That's true. Yeah, Faithless Forum is April 27th. It is sold out. Unfortunately, like we sold out super, super, super fast. We've confirmed other guest speakers that are announced. Aaron's already been announced, so he'll be there. But there's some other YouTubers you will know. And
I hear G-Man showing up. Is that
activists
true?
too. Oh God, I don't know.
Wouldn't
Is
that
he in
be? Could he
Texas?
just
I
crash the
hope
party?
so. That would be
Can he just be
amazing.
outside talking to people? That would be actually
Oh,
that'd
it'd
be
be
fun.
fascinating.
It would be hilarious.
Be a riot,
He
man.
would make himself look foolish very quickly if he came there to argue because the environment is very much one of positive dialogue, conversation, and community building, and opportunities to interact with like-minded people there. So
Yeah.
if he came in looking to just argue,
They
I
would
think
walk
he'd make
away.
himself look foolish, really, and especially since
Yeah.
there's going to be some pretty great atheist minds there that that I think could shut him down.
No, the guest list is pretty impressive.
Quick.
There's no question about it. No, the guest list is definitely pretty impressive.
Yeah, so it should be fun. But if you want a ticket, there is a wait list. So it is still within the realm of possibility if people cancel or return their tickets, which I'm not sure if it's happened yet, but it could happen. There's still a little bit of time, and it'll also put you on the list to be the first to be notified when the tickets become available for next year because this is only our second year and we're selling out each year. So, and it's only going to get bigger as more people become involved.
Now, is any of that going to be recorded? Are they making like videos or anything, or is it all private?
No, some of it will be. Some of it will be. We haven't really hashed out. I was talking to them about panels today, actually, panel construction. I was helping out a little bit with the organizers, with where people go on what panels and what the panels would look like. And there hasn't really been anything set in place yet because the finalization is still taking place, and there's also a large volume of people involved. And if we have a ton of people in there with individual camera setups, that becomes cumbersome because we need to make sure that the audience view isn't obstructed in any way. But we'll definitely
I would
make sure
assume you
that
just
there
have one
are
official recorder.
potentially, yeah. So, well, yes,
Yeah.
the answer is ultimately yes. It will be available as content, definitely somewhere. But because there's so many creators involved. I mean, just the panelists, I think there's 14 or 15 of us.
That's a lot. That's a heavy panel load.
Yeah, but have you seen the panels like Ecologia and the Cosmic Skeptic's going to be there, Rationality Rules is going to be there.
So is one person at least going to tell a Steve joke? At least one person's got to tell a joke on my behalf. A Steve joke.
I bought a non-sequitur tank top specifically to wear while I was there. So
Which one are you wearing?
The one with you and Kyle on either side.
I actually like that one. Yeah, that one. Yeah, well, I like all of them, but yeah, I would actually wear that one too.
Somebody does need to purchase and wear the "Why Are You So #bitchmade" one that came out.
I
like
bought
that one too.
I do like it, but I don't know if they have a tank top.
All right, guys. This was fun. I'm sorry Casey couldn't stick around long enough, but he's a busy guy. And I know he was tired. He kind of stepped in last minute because of reasons. So, and Shannon kind of stepped in last minute. So this worked out pretty well though for kind of a last minute thing. I think I kind of like this call and Q&A stuff, and I think we're going to do it on Fridays more often. But I think we're going to have like more of a diversification of what the topics will be. Instead of having like random callers, I think we're kind of looking at having a specific theme, and then have people calling in and maybe having a guest and having them answer the questions. I think people like that. I do. Let us know what you think about it in the comments section, and let us know in the live chat as well. If that's the kind of format you like, that's what we'd like to do. And if Dave doesn't mind answering the phones like an operator, we might do that every Friday or every other Friday. Okay, well, with that, thanks for watching tonight, and we will see you on the weekend tomorrow. If you're Patreon, we'll have the Patreon at 4 o'clock, and if you're interested in becoming a Patreon, join us anyway. Join us for that too. Dave, myself, Kyle, and anybody else that wants to drop in. See what we do off air. We talk for like an hour or two just about all the kinds of weird stuff, and it's pretty fun. So we'll see you then. Good night.